Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Twit specials is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
Welcome back to
Your
day
bass had
3.
just started right as soon as we started on the air.
Bass Nectar.
Bass Nectar.
Although they do have a song called Bass Head.
I know they do.
Okay.
Welcome to Le Web 2011. Leo Laporte and Sarah Lane at day 3 of Loic Le Mer's amazing conference. And I have to say, each day it's been getting more amazing. This is a really fantastic event.
We've had quite a bit of announcements.
Yeah. Today, Spotify, Daniel Ek took the stage talking to Loic Le Mer, announcing that Spotify, no, last week they announced apps. Spotify was going to start doing a radio, Pandora-style radio, artist radio.
Right.
Evernote announced 2 new apps. Flipboard, probably the biggest, Mike McHugh announced the Flipboard for iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
And Twitter's got a new platform. And this guy, MG Siegler, just talked to the
Brian Sarver.
man in charge, Brian Sarver.
Yes, we did a half-an-hour interview this morning.
Welcome to the Hotbox.
Yeah.
That's our new show, by the way.
It's so bright in here.
Hotbox.
It's
and MG Siegler
Twit
in a
on
hot
fire.
seat, a Hotbox.
Well, he's wearing orange, so he fits right in.
MG, of course, you know him from TechCrunch for many, well, not many years, really, just a couple of years.
Yeah.
And
Almost 3.
Paris Lemon, his blog, but of course now he writes just an Apple column from time to time on TechCrunch, and is a venture capitalist.
Yes.
For Crunch Fund.
Yes.
A partner in Crunch Fund. So has that changed your perspective and the way you cover things like this? You were writing an article up till 5 in the morning on Eric Schmidt last night.
Yeah, it's interesting because it was still, I have my Apple column, and but since Eric Schmidt had brought up kind of the Android, iOS stuff as always, I can use that as my entry point.
Was that for Paris Lemon or for TechCrunch?
For TechCrunch, yeah, I wrote that.
That was actually probably the most press of all at the web was day 1 when Eric Schmidt and Loic took the stage.
Yeah, he had a lot to say.
He said things like, by next year, most of all TVs will have Google
that
TV.
might be the most outlandish thing he said. I mean,
it's like saying the UFOs will land next year and our overlords will finally take over.
I mean, and it's not like launching a new platform and everyone isn't sure. They already launched Google TV.
It flopped.
And it was a dud, and now they're saying it's going to be. I mean, the new version does look nice. I don't know if it's going to actually be any better, and I can't see how on earth it's going to be on 50% of TVs in 6 months.
Right.
Well, that's what he could have meant was 50% of TVs sold within the next 6 months are going to be able to run some sort of a Google TV app or something.
Maybe.
Like they can run all sorts of other
I'm sure
apps.
that's what Google PR is telling everybody today.
Yeah, I guess I'm working for
50% of TVs sold with Google TV will use Google TV.
Well, it's like saying you'll be able to watch Netflix on your TV without an additional box.
Yeah.
And you can do that on some TVs,
Right.
and that'll
Google
continue
TV
to
is
be the
building
case.
some Sony TVs, and I guess they're talking to Samsung or whatever about doing other ones. But
Right.
There's no way it's going to be 50%.
No.
And then he said,
But he does this. He
well, that's
He's
just a
wishful
silly thing to
thinking.
say. He also, the thing I wrote about was he said, in 6 months also, so June 2012 is going to be a big time for Google, I guess. In 6 months, that most developers will focus first on Android rather than iOS, because that's of course Android is obviously bigger platform-wise right now, and they're pretty much equal in terms of number of apps, but it's still all the best apps are still coming to iOS first. Flipboard, and that was the one that was brought up by the audience members, and according to Eric Schmidt, that's going to change in the next 6 months because Ice Cream Sandwich is that good. And they finally have a good piece of software. Of course, they've been saying that for the past 2 years. They always say that this is the one that's going to be good, and you should develop for this one. So I have a hard time believing that that's going to be the case.
Well, Steve Jang was here yesterday on our stage talking about the new app for Android.
Right.
And how...
SoundCloud.
Sound
tracking.
And how the Android, the way that they were able to develop for Android actually works better than the iOS version of the app at this point.
And I said that on stage, and Hugo Barra from Google, who's a PM in charge of Android platform, was pretty happy when we met each other backstage talking about that. But it's true, it is a really good app, and I like it a little bit better than the iOS version. But I also asked Steve like how it was developing that app, and he said it's still a huge pain.
Right.
You got to develop for all those different devices, and there's little quirks on each one. Even the Google the Nexus Galaxy, with the Galaxy Nexus, which I'm testing out now, he loaded up sound tracking on there and just found like 3 new bugs that he hadn't noticed because it's just different than the other versions out there.
Yeah, Dave Morin said the same thing about the Path Android.
Yeah, right. He was looking at it
version.
too.
That was
Right.
just you sort of have to just build from scratch rather than something that's a little bit easier.
Yeah, yeah. So I have a hard time believing that in 6 months all that's going to change. I mean, from everything I hear, I've talked to hundreds of developers over the past 2 years, and they all pretty much have the same thing to say about developing for Android, that it's just a really big pain. They don't have the same tools that Apple gives you for developing with for iOS. And anyone who's been on that light side of the fence then goes over to this side and sees like, wow, I have no desire to actually do this.
With all due respect, I don't think anybody cares if developers are in pain, really.
No, but
I mean,
that's...
you look at the PS3, which is also supposedly very difficult to develop for
Right.
compared to the Xbox 360. Plenty of games on it because really, in the bottom line, the developer is going to develop for the platform where he's going to make the most money.
And
or
that's
she's going to make the most
yes,
money.
and that's a good point, because Schmidt's point was that scale is the most important thing, and you can't overlook the fact that we're going to have Android on millions of more devices than iOS devices out there. But from the developer perspective, also you have to think about making money. And
Right.
Android hasn't proven that you can make a lot of money
Right.
selling. You can't make them certainly selling the apps. Whether or not that it comes out to play that you can make a lot of money doing in-app advertising, that might be the case. And then at that point, scale is really important. But they still don't have the infrastructure in place for developers to feel comfortable trying to sell these apps. I met with, you guys have talked about their apps a few times, the 955 Dreams guys, the Road to Woodstock and
Band of the
History
Year?
of Jazz and Band of the Year. And so that was just one of the Apple's apps of the year, runner-up to Instagram. And, they're iOS only right now. One of the reasons why is because they just really believe that the App Store distribution model is much better than anything the Android
So
market
here's
can
the
give them.
question. Could you become an App of the Year if you weren't iOS only?
No.
No.
Well, I'm
look
trying to think of
look
who
at the
else-
list
who
and
else is in
just
there.
and answer your question later.
Yeah.
You also talked to Marissa Meyer.
Yeah.
She comes here every year. In fact, she got engaged here 4 years ago.
Right.
This is their anniversary of their engagement.
Right.
Did she say anything interesting or compelling? No. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to answer your question.
I did.
MG did ask her if she'd rather work for Yahoo or Microsoft.
No, not that. I asked.
She could run Yahoo. I'd hire her to run Yahoo.
Yeah, she should be
She'd
on
be a
that
good
list.
CEO, yeah.
I asked
probably is on the
her
list.
whether she thought that it would be better for Google to end up being more like Yahoo or end up like Microsoft, like which is the worst of
that's
two
terrible.
poisons. Yeah, right.
Like,
What did she
which
say?
do you pick?
She skirted
by
around.
fire or
She
water.
refused to pick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I said you have to pick, and she's
That's
like,
good.
I have to pick. No, I'm not going to answer
That's
that.
a tough interview because Mike Arrington's always done that in the past, and it's always been hysterical to watch Mike slouch and
Yeah.
shoot arrows, lob arrows against.
Right. She's as
Marissa.
good at deflecting
at-
those,
she can dodge.
than anyone I've ever seen.
Yeah, she's
so,
very good at that.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit. Has it changed? You come here as a VC now, less as a reporter.
Yeah, well, when I had to talk to Loic at first about doing this, I was still with TechCrunch, so it's kind of a transition phase.
This is
I
your
guess.
last.
hurrah. Though I don't
hurrah.
know. I mean, I certainly don't mind doing these on-stage interviews. I did 5 this year. That's quite a few, and they're relatively easy to do. So as long as there's no huge conflict going up on stage and doing them, I don't mind.
I don't think this is that kind of show. I mean, everybody here is a startup or an entrepreneur.
Right.
This show celebrates venture capitalists and entrepreneurs. That's
Yeah.
what this show is all about, really.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been great being here. I have gotten different pitches than I would have gotten in the past. Of course, different startups from Europe and stuff coming up, and seeing if we're interested, in investing outside of the U.S. And we're definitely not opposed to it. It's just not something we really look at because there's only
Right.
3 of us, and we don't have a lot of access.
You got to think, though, and I think it's one of the themes of this show, that this might be the year that European entrepreneurialism really gets celebrated. There's a number of billion-dollar companies coming out of Europe. You've got Sweden with Spotify
Yeah,
and
Rovio.
Rovio and
Yep.
Mojang. What is the name of the Minecraft company?
Yeah,
can never remember that name.
Yeah.
You've got Berlin. We had the SoundCloud guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really suddenly becoming okay to be a startup here.
Yeah, yeah. It's still kind of interesting. A lot of those companies, Spotify, is seeing huge success now, leveraging Facebook's platform, and Rovio, of course, with iOS and Android. So they're still leveraging the platforms built in the U.S., but I think that that's a smart way to do it. You kind of come in and
Nothing
use
wrong with
what's
that.
already on the table, and then build up your own brand, and then eventually maybe that helps build up all of Europe, because then there's more money coming in. Maybe
Right.
these guys can fund other startups in the area, like kind of what happened in Chicago with Groupon. Groupon saw huge success, and then a lot of the founders out there just started investing in other startups in Chicago, and it's kind of built this little, microcosm of an investing.
Eric Schmidt
area
said
out
that.
there.
He said we need another Silicon
rival,
Valley.
yeah.
We want a rival here in
Yeah,
Europe.
and I think that's a really good point.
Was he sincere?
I think so. I mean, I think that he's looking right at Android and iOS, and that it's good that the two are playing off of one another and both force each other to be better in a lot of ways. And I think that if you take that to the higher level, if you have a different city or a different country that can rival the U.S. in terms of innovation and startups, yeah, I think that's definitely a good thing.
What do you think about that Galaxy Nexus? Is it in your pocket?
Yeah, I have one.
You have one?
Yeah.
God damn. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Right here.
I mean, I already know what you think about it, but since
Yeah.
you're such an Apple fanboy and all.
I do. This is definitely the best Android device that I've used yet.
You like ice cream sandwich?
I do. It's good. The most interesting comparisons are the apps that are available for both platforms, which is like Path and Twitter now. They just rolled out the new one to both. Foursquare, all different ones I have on here. The ones where they try and do exact ports, you can definitely tell Android is still nowhere near where it needs to be in terms of like slickness and smoothness. But the ones where they're trying to do things a little bit different, like sound tracking, like we talked about, it just looks a little bit different. They take advantage of Android platform, namely that you can do Spotify integration and you can actually
run
play a
music in the
full song.
background, yeah.
Do music in the background. I think that that's really smart, and more app developers should focus
it's
on that.
And you
heads
can-
and shoulders better than the iOS version where you can't do that at all.
Unlike Siri, on this you can ask for a song from Spotify and it will play it.
Yes, right.
And that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Now, supposedly that was to be available in the U.S. today on Verizon. That's what my sources told me. And now it's early morning in the U.S. So, but the Verizon page hasn't changed yet. But soon.
Soon, yes. It's in London, right? Right now, isn't it?
Yeah, I
think-
ordered one from London.
Yeah, okay.
And it's
But-
waiting for me when I get back.
It's it's an interesting size. This is a much bigger screen. I think it's 4.3.
It's also 1280 by 720, which
Yeah,
is huge.
right.
4.6?
Maybe it's
Yeah.
4.6.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting size. I'm not sure this is something I would want to carry around, but there's still the rumors, of course, that the iPhone will get a slightly bigger screen with the iPhone 5.
It is very thin, too.
Yeah, it's thin. I think the weight is about the same. It feels a little bit more still plasticky than the iPhone does because it's got this back that you can take off, and that's still really kind of janky, this back that you have to like rip off to...
Only an iPhone fan would say, gee, you could change the battery. How could they do that? What a
But it's
terrible
like-
design
It
feature
feels like
that is.
I'm ripping a
I
nail
know, it is a
off
little
when
weird
I'm-
taking that back off.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
don't take it off, and then it'll be just like
Well,
an
you
iPhone.
could use a
Yeah.
screwdriver or something. You don't have to lose a nail.
Yeah.
Twitter, you talked to Twitter's head of platform today.
Right, yeah.
And they've revamped. I don't see it yet, but people will start to see that soon.
They have a small percentage of users that are seeing it right now. I actually have it enabled on mine.
People are angry about the new
the
iPhone app.
the iPhone app is not as good.
We
I don't
talked quite a bit about that. Yeah, John Gruber had a long post, kind of just tearing into the new iPhone app because he was a big fan of Tweety even before it was bought by
Right. This
by
is
Twitter.
Tweety.
Yeah, so this is the evolution of Tweety. Though the guy who built Tweety, Lauren Britchard, no longer works for.
Disavowed any knowledge of this version of it.
I mean, their big play here, though, is they want to unify the experience across the web and then all the mobile apps themselves, too. And it wasn't like that previously, even though the app was great.
So the desktop will start to look like the.
yeah,
iOS
yeah,
version?
you can see it on my screen. It's,
If you can turn that around, I think we can get a shot of that.
Yeah.
It looks very different. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a big change.
So you've
turn
got-
it towards one of the cameras, maybe that
Sure.
one. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. We got a nice shot of that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a big change.
So everything, basically the right-hand rail has become the left-hand rail,
Yep.
which actually, they always say, especially when you're designing a blog, rails should be on the left-hand side because people read left to, well, in English, people read left to right, and so you actually, things like trending topics would stand out more. Also who to follow and
I think that's kind of annoying,
advertised.
though, because or I wish you could collapse them, because I don't want that stuff in my face all
highlight?
the
It's
time.
Well,
a
I
press-
wish
press
you
the
could
shift key,
collapse
it's
them, too.
dark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't
But-
have a good shot of it because somebody's microphone is in it. So.
it's mine.
That's all right. But we get the idea.
They
And
have the Home, Connect, and Discover are the three main areas of the app now. So it used to be, obviously, you had your main tweet stream, and then you had @replies, and then you had DMs, messages, and then they had a little tab for your profile or whatever. But now that's been
And what about
whittled down.
Is Discovery what activity was?
No. So activity is baked into the Connect area. So it's basically, and they call it interactions now and mentions. That's a little confusing because interactions is a combination of mentions alongside things like people who followed you, and if someone starred your tweet or someone retweeted your tweet.
Okay.
So that's baked in there now. It's like a 2-level thing. And then the Discover tab is totally new. It's sort of similar to what Trending Topics is, but they're trying to do it, they're trying to surface major stories based on everyone that you follow and what they're tweeting about. So right now the top one is new Twitter. So the
Hashtag new Twitter.
Hashtag new Twitter.
Which
Google
is what
Currents.
we're all calling it. Google
Which
Currents.
is the new Flipboard-like thing from, and Spotify Radio is one of the things. So these are things that people are most talking about right now, and they try and make it kind of like I would consider it a sort of like what LinkedIn Today is. You know, they have a front page of what you should look at.
Or even something like NewsMe, where it
Yeah, right, or
tries to
NewsMe,
figure
yeah.
out what you want to read and offers up article ideas.
It
Yeah.
strikes me that their problem going forward is that there become more and more infrastructure, a social signaling system that companies like Flipboard can sit upon and give you a much
and just
better
use all that
experience.
data. And actually, I've talked about this a little bit with them because I was noticing so much traffic coming in to TechCrunch from that LinkedIn Today thing, which was predominantly powered by Twitter.
Right.
And it's like, so why don't you want that traffic,
Exactly.
coming through? And now, I don't know if they're going to do it or if they're talking about it, but it's like they might do a little thing where they basically, anytime you click on that link, they quickly send you back, to a Twitter URL so they can get credit at least for using some of that.
That's going to be the challenge is monetizing social.
Yeah, well, I
in
think that
general.
they're going to have a thing where they basically push their ads out on top of the tweets as well.
Right.
So you have it all in the stream. And so it doesn't matter really where you view the tweets. It's
And of
just,
course, that's what people don't want.
Right.
That's what the
Right.
users don't want.
What,
Right.
inline ads? I
Inline
certainly
ads.
don't.
Yeah, but
I
that's
mean,
the only way to
that's-
get them in there.
yeah.
In people's
and
line
that's
of
what's
sight.
going to happen. And they, you just have to realize that if Twitter doesn't monetize in some way, it will go away. So is it better to have tweets, a few tweet ads in your stream, or is it better just not to have Twitter at all?
Now, the mobile version of Twitter
It's like asking if you want to
hasn't
run
changed, has it?
Microsoft or Yahoo, by the way.
All right.
It
Which
almost
bullet
looks-
is better?
The mobile version of Twitter hasn't gotten a refresh, has it? Because to me,
the
this looks a
are
little
you
messy.
at m.twitter?
Yeah.
That hasn't been. No, that's still. I think that's still the old version. Yeah, because there's still DMs in there.
Right.
Yeah, it is getting revamped, but that's not it yet.
Why are they wanting to de-emphasize DMs?
So we talked a little bit about that on stage today. They don't really view it as trying to de-emphasize it. They're just, again, trying to streamline it for basically new users coming on board. And most of them, I would imagine, don't really understand the concept behind DM. Like, Twitter
Right.
is kind of pushing this idea that everything should be public. And so why would you use this kind of DM thing? And it's also weird, like, you can only DM people who follow you. And so that's kind of a complicated concept to begin with. But they say they're not trying to de-emphasize it. They did put it, it still exists. It's just one level deep now.
Right.
They're calling it the Anthony Weiner feature. It confuses you too much, so we're just
So,
going to take it
right,
out.
yeah, there
We're
will be
gonna
no more
hide it.
DM fail.
Yeah, nothing is private. Just remember it.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many DM fails there still are. I guess if I was a new user,
It's confusing.
and this is the first thing I saw, I'd pick it up pretty easily. But for those of us who have been using Twitter for the last 4 years,
Right, it's going to annoy us
it's
because
a
just
huge
totally
difference.
different.
It's like,
Yeah.
I don't need a learning curve right now, Twitter.
The other thing that they're doing that's largely different is the pages themselves when you go to an actual person's page.
Uh-huh.
So they have this whole...
Let's see if we can.
Yeah. So it actually doesn't look all that different right now, except for a few little things. Like you can, over on the left rail, I think you can easily tweet at someone, which they had soft launched that feature earlier before they had launched this new version. But that makes a lot of sense. A lot of times people hit a profile page and wonder, like, okay, well, these are these people's tweets. Like, how do I actually interact with them? How do I post to their wall? Thinking it's like Facebook. So that's how you do that now. You can just tweet right at them. And they're allowing these brands, they also have a little space under the main header to put in like some branding elements. They can put in a nice picture, or they can promote their own tweets and put them up there. So basically there's a way for someone like Coca-Cola who's tweeting, and you see a promoted tweet from Coca-Cola in your main stream, and you click on that tweet and you go to the Coca-Cola page before you're like, well, what am I going to do here? Now it's a little bit more like, oh, well, you can see what tweets we actually want you to click on, which ones are actionable, and also this is our actual homepage on Twitter, and you can find us here also. You can find us elsewhere.
Isn't it amazing that Twitter has been around and has as many users as it does, and they're just now figuring out that they've got to figure out how brands can use it? I mean, we've gotten this far with almost no ads at all on Twitter.
Yeah.
They've tried some stuff out, but none of it really has ever worked before.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see a pretty heavy push in 2012 in terms of monetizing Twitter as much as possible with ads.
The beginning of the Twitter, or the end of the Twitter we knew.
Yeah. One last question. Anything that you've seen here that's exciting and new that nobody knows about? Your discovery, startup discovery? There's a whole startup demo zone over here. Have you been over there and looked at it?
I've walked through it briskly.
Head down. I don't know you. You don't know me.
Today's the first day, really. I'll have probably the opportunity to actually go and look around.
You've
I've
been
had too many
working hard.
interviews.
5 interviews.
The other days, yeah. So I've spent most of my time backstage prepping and talking to the people that I'm going to talk to. But yeah, I'll walk around today.
We'll come back and find something exciting. I know it's not the Up band. I see you wearing yours.
So you saw the news about that.
I got the email from the president of Up. He says you can have your money back.
Right.
Sorry about that. You can still use it. We'll give you your money back.
And they cut off all shipments now.
They'll even throw in another $50 if you take Jawbone credits.
Really?
Rather than actual cash.
Oh, okay.
Well, I know somebody who might have taken some Jawbone credits. Apparently, everybody who speaks at LeWeb is getting a Jawbone, one of those Jawbone speakers.
Yeah, the Jambox.
Jambox, which are great.
Right.
I think they're really fantastic.
Yeah, those are supposed
Wonderful.
to be
That's
really
your
nice.
speaker gift.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So
Loic Lemure will be joining us actually in just a few minutes, so we'll ask him about that. Coming up also, Gabe Rivera, the founder of TechMeme, Brent Hoberman, who is a Brit and a serial entrepreneur, very interesting fellow. Marco Tempest, who is a magician, an internet magician. He's really fantastic. You might have seen his TED Talk. Won't be doing any magic, but we'll talk to him. I'm very excited at 2:45 France time. Jean-Marie Hulot will join us. He was the former CTO at Apple. He was at Next. He was the guy who supposedly told Steve Jobs, you have to do an iPhone.
Yeah.
And he's created a Wikipedia for photos that is really
they've been doing, every time I'm on stage, they tweet out a link to a nice picture album of the talk right immediately after it's over. It's really nice.
I think this is a great project. From Kiva, we've got their CEO, Matt Flannery. We're going to talk to some Russian bloggers in just a little bit.
We've got quite a day.
Alexia Tsotsis from TechCrunch will be stopping by. We have a very big day planned for you. I'm exhausted just talking about it. Thank you, MG, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, MG.
Well, before we go
take a nap.
party review.
Party review.
Any great parties?
How the party's been?
Yeah.
He doesn't really like parties.
I'm asking the wrong guy.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I was
very
blogging
anti-party.
until 5 a.m. I don't know.
I left the
There were
the
models.
fun party.
There were models
I left
at
the
the-
model party last night to go home and
The
write.
super secret Sean Parker party.
It wasn't really very super secret.
Really?
It wasn't a cool space though. It was designed, I guess, by David Lynch.
Well, they say that, but there was nothing
Now, this
very
is the
Lynchian
David
about
Lynch
it.
girl.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
you think?
No.
No?
It was a club. It was a club with a lot of champagne.
Did they give you oxygen masks?
I wish they would have, but no, it was nothing like that.
Stare at a model, go.
There were no red curtains, nothing. Nobody talked backwards.
Was anybody wrapped in plastic?
I wish they would have been.
Yeah. all
No.
right. No. All David Lynch references
There was
that
a
are
band there.
completely obscure, ladies.
Yeah,
and
if
gentlemen.
you, some of you will get it. Most of you won't.
Thank you, MG.
Thanks,
Really
MG.
appreciate it. MG Siegler of the Crunch Fund. Hey, I want to quickly bring up Franco because Franco Solario is doing in Italy what we do in the States. But we can't do that until MG leaves. So We'll be back in a moment. We're live from Le Web 2011 in Paris.
So you have to get off that stage.
They're having a moment. We'll just let them have a moment. It's okay. Just a little private moment. We're rapping.
Welcome.
Hello.
We're
How
back
are
at
you?
Le Web in
Nice to
Paris
have you.
2011, the great conference that Loic Le Meur puts on every year, bringing American entrepreneurs together with European entrepreneurs. And each year it gets better, bigger, and more exciting. And this year is, I feel like I'm hyping it, and I don't want to be seen as like a cheerleader for it. I really think this is a great conference. And we've been meeting some amazing people.
Well, you're just being honest.
I'm just very jazzed by this. It's better than I had even expected. And Franco is one of the people that I met. We were wandering around. He is with Digitalia.
Yeah, it's a tech show. We are trying to do what you did. I'm not sure that we will one day have a studio like this. We are audio only. We do live show every week about technology. About
Digitalia.fm?
.fm, yeah. And we do it live on Shoutcast, and we do on podcast. The focus is about it's not about technology, it's the influence that technology has on lifestyle, on people, on society, on morality, and that's our focus.
Is it audio and video or
For the moment, just audio.
just audio?
Yeah.
Working up to video.
Now, let me ask you a little bit about the culture in Italy and the startup culture and the entrepreneurial culture. Certainly, recently, some big economic issues in Italy. And I know here in France, that's what President Sarkozy was telling us the other day, is that they are looking to technology as perhaps one of the saviors of the economy. Same thing in the post-Berlusconi Italy?
In Italy, we have a big dichotomy. There's we call the Digitalians, which are the tech-savvy people, which is a minority, and they have a strong feeling about technology as a way to get out of this economic turmoil. But most of the people and most of politicians still don't see this opportunity. I feel this might be the only opportunity. We go on cutting costs, cutting expenses, having less jobs, cutting the pensions. But the only way to get out of this trouble is having new jobs. And new jobs, you can't have new jobs competing on doing shirts. The Chinese do better than us
right.
with lower costs. And I think that the big opportunity is to do something like Loic is promoting here. And it's easy too, because we have only to start copying what you did in the last 10 years in Silicon Valley, 20 years. So it's not inventing the model. You have to invent new products, new way to do things, but the model is already there. And tech-savvy people, Digitalians, can't understand why our politicians don't see this opportunity.
Yeah. The school system, though, is very good. There are a lot of great engineers in Italy.
Yeah, a lot. And
No lack.
they all go working abroad.
Right.
We have a big problem.
They leave.
Yeah. The escape of the brains, we call it. La fuga dei cervelli.
Escape of the brain.
We
Yeah.
call it brain drain. How do you say in Italian?
Yeah. La fuga dei cervelli.
La fuga dei cervelli. That sounds so much better than brain drain.
It does.
I'm calling it that from now on. It's really great. So so tell us, you do this every week? You do.
What city are you based in?
Sanremo. I'm based on Sanremo, which
Sanremo is
you know it.
beautiful.
It's near the border to France on the sea. But the show is from a distributed studio because I'm the only one in Sanremo. We have another guy in Salerno, which is near Naples. He's a professor of networking at the University of Salerno. There's another guy who works in television brands in Milan. And sometimes we have new speakers. We try to have many to go around, many people.
We know all about that.
The model is, you know the model, I think so.
I think that's great. You know, people sometimes say, well, why don't you do a twit in Spanish or Italian or Chinese? And my answer always is, no, the best way to do that would be for people like Franco to do it. Somebody who's local, native, understands the country, the culture, and can do it for themselves. So I'm glad that we're a model.
An example of
There's quite a few now.
French model.
Yeah.
We are trying to push the human race forward.
Exactly. Good.
That's what we have to do. It's difficult because we have to do all by ourselves. There's no infrastructure. The same broadband is not so. There's no capillarity in Italy. Big digital divide. We are one of the last countries in Europe accounting to broadband penetration.
Really?
We have an incredible number of smartphones. an
this is maybe the
incredible
breakthrough
number.
device, isn't it?
Yeah, but the problem is that 50% of the smartphones sold to people are to people that don't use those as smartphones. They don't know that they can install an app. They use it like a normal dumb phone, and it's just fashion. They buy it because it's fashionable.
Right. Well, it's so great to see you, Franco. Everybody should check. Everybody who speaks Italian should check you out. Digitalia.fm.
Thank you, Leo.
Right? Thank you so much
Thank
for coming
you.
by.
Thank
I really
you, Sarah.
appreciate it. Nice
Thank
to
you,
meet you.
Marco.
Enjoy
Nice
the
to
rest
meet
of
you.
Le Web and the Web conference.
We should start listening to that podcast.
Maybe we get some tips. We certainly could get some great phrases. What is the phrase again? Brain drain?
Dei cervelli.
La fuga dei cervelli.
La fuga
I
dei
love
cervelli.
that. Forget brain. La fuga dei cervelli. That's what's happening to us right now.
Absolutely.
Our cervellis are fugaing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're almost out.
We are live from Paris, France, Le Web 2011. It's 1:30 in the afternoon here, Paris time. So that means, if my calculations are right, it's 5:30 in the morning Pacific, 8:30 Eastern.
That's right.
Thanks to our staff at the TWiT Brick House, the staff is John Slanina, one and only, who got up early, came in. In fact, I think he came in at 1 a.m. yesterday, didn't he? He was in very early yesterday. So, John, we really appreciate your doing that. We thought we'd give you a little time off this morning. Jammer B rocks. We were planning to do TWiT and iPad today today, but due to technical issues, we aren't able to do that. So we'll be doing a regular iPad today on Thursday, minus you.
Yes, Leo is going to be taking over the production duties of iPad
She's
today.
so skeptical.
Next
She doesn't
Thursday.
think I can do it.
I am not skeptical at all.
Yes, you are. You
No.
said just do a different format because you'll never be able to do this format. You
I
did.
said it in such a nicer way than that. So
Oh,
much
I heard
nicer
it
than
like
that.
Fuga de what?
Cervelli.
Cervelli.
Brain drainer.
And Tom Merritt will be taking the reins on TWiT, so we'll do TWiT at the regular time, which will be 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, Sunday on twit.tv. Still to come on our show today, Loic Le Meur should join us any minute now. We're waiting for him. I knew Loic would be late because he's
pretty busy.
That poor man, he interviewed me on stage last night about 5 o'clock.
Yes.
And he was exhausted. He was running on gummy bears. In fact, he had a pile. I posted a picture. He's a pile of them in his lap.
Loic and Geraldine were at the Sean Barker party last night.
They have to go to all the parties. They have to
Right.
and Loic's doing most of the interviews on stage. This must be a very difficult 3 days, but forget the 3 days. They put together an amazing conference.
I remember when last year, when a bunch of us were at Le Web, there was sort of a last day dinner. And by that time, the group had gotten a lot smaller. In fact, it was a couple days, I think, after the show even ended.
I wasn't there because I had to leave.
You had to leave, exactly. And I said to Geraldine, doesn't it feel nice just to be? And she says, no, I'm working on 2011.
Yeah. Well, and
it's a year-long project.
With this, and we'll kind of paint a picture for you, but we're sitting in a booth, but outside here is one of 3 halls. This hall is the blogger and press pavilion, which is upstairs. Last year, they had giant beds. Mike Arrington was sitting in state last year in this giant bed, I remember very well. Out in front of us, there's some booths. Across the way, there's another hall that has the startup demo stage. So there are a bunch of European startups that come to compete, to show off, to get some attention. And then there's a third hall, which is across the road, which is where the plenary, that's what they call the main stage is.
It's huge.
And that goes all day. There's a room there for at least 1,500 people to sit, and most people are sitting there with laptops or iPads open and blogging and tweeting. In fact, if you search Twitter for Le Web as a hashtag, you'll see constant tweets about what's going on there. They also have sponsors in there. Renault is a sponsor. Google has a booth here. There's quite a few sponsors. If I look out on the banner out there, IBM, which sponsored this stage. I mean, there's quite a bit to put this all together. So Geraldine it's her full-time job. She works very hard on that all year long, and they did, I think, a spectacular job of this. And it's, you know what? They've got a tiger by the tail.
You also, a show that has this many announcements, companies waiting to announce.
That's a good sign.
Really, really key initiatives, Twitter rolling out.
Complete redesign. That's the biggest redesign they've done
redesign
in at
of
least
features,
a year.
Spotify, etc. That's when you know you have a good show, because otherwise companies wouldn't even bother.
Well, Spotify's a good example. You know, I saw Daniel Ek on stage. Loic interviewed him this morning. First of all, very impressive. And he's one of the golden people of European startups. It's a Stockholm startup from Sweden. and a huge success. And so that's one of the things they want to really celebrate here is the very big successes like Spotify that are European, because it inspires everybody who's here that you can make it. You know, from Sweden or from Germany or from Italy, you can have a startup that is a success worldwide. But he, I think, probably held back the radio announcement. You remember last week they had a big event. They announced apps. They could have announced which are great. It was a big announcement. They certainly would have been easy for them to announce radio there as well. But they held back on it and they announced it here. And I think that that's really a measure of respect to Loic.
I'm a little confused, though, about Spotify radio because Rdio has a radio station.
As does Mog, and they're very similar.
And
but remember, it's Spotify.
Well, of course, and I understand Spotify's sort of the biggest of all of them, of the streaming stations. Well, not stations, but streaming services. But people are acting like they're the first company to do this, and they're certainly not.
I think because it's Spotify, it's a big deal. They also are doing something that's different than Pandora, unlimited skips. Pandora will limit you to 5 skips a day. And so by saying, I don't want to hear that, I don't want to hear that, they say it's your music. You can skip as much as you want. By making unlimited stations, not just artist stations, but genre stations, I think they're really challenging Pandora, which is the big internet radio station in the U.S., and I think that, in a way, this could be very bad news for Pandora, which has been struggling quite a bit. Hey, we want to welcome briefly here, before we get Loic Le Meur on stage. And by the way, welcome. You're watching Le Web 2011, live from Paris, Leo Laporte.
Sarah Lane.
See, when I pause, she says her name. It's good. Nicholas Charbonnier is here. Nicholas, we met Nicholas at the cottage about a year ago.
Is that where you
look familiar? Yeah.
Maybe I've met you before.
He brought a bunch of Arcos tablets. Nicholas is an ARM fanatic, right?
Yeah, I have a website called armdevices.net. So I'm half from Switzerland. I don't know if you saw they legalized piracy in Switzerland. So basically...
When did they legalize piracy in Switzerland?
The government said it's fine, you can just pirate whatever you want.
Well, they didn't really say it that way. They said that they can't find enough evidence that enough companies are losing money.
Which is true.
Because of piracy, which
That's
is true.
fantastic.
It's pretty much true worldwide, but Switzerland is the only country to admit it.
I think they measured that basically the Swiss artists aren't losing anything, so they should only protect the Swiss artists, and people spend that money on local cultural events, or maybe they go more to Le Web in Switzerland.
Well, I think Spotify is a good example of that. Spotify does not pay much money to the artists, yet the record labels, and I presume artists, embrace it because it's exposure, and where do they make their money? They make it then in performance. So I think that maybe that is the future. It may not be the best future if you're expect to make $1 million as a platinum artist, you're not going to do that anymore.
Here in France, there's the global license that 5 years ago, there was a campaign with Ségolène Royal who lost against Sarkozy. And she was saying she wants to legalize piracy where people pay over the ISP $10 per month, and you can pirate everything you want.
Right.
And then they would basically legalize that you can do whatever you want on the internet. And they would try to redistribute that later.
They did that sort of in Canada. They charge a premium on recording media, so blank CDs, blank DVDs, tapes. There's a nickel premium or something like that, and that goes to the artist. The idea being, well, these are piracy devices. Now, I don't agree with that, and if you manufactured CDs or DVD blanks, you might be pretty unhappy about that tax, in effect, on your product. But that's one way to do it. I see that this is legal in Switzerland for personal use as of last week. And Torrent Freak says that there was a Swiss study that found 1 in 3 of the country's citizens over the age of 15 had downloaded pirated entertainment at one point or another. So it's as predominant in Sweden or Switzerland as it is everywhere. One of the things Daniel Ek, who's from Sweden, says is this: Sweden was becoming famous for piracy with Pirate Bay. The Pirate Party won 5% in a recent election. Of course, Kazaa came out of Sweden. So he said, we thought we should make a product that promoted music legally instead of piracy. But let's talk about ARM, because you brought an Arcos tablet. This is the first tablet to run Ice Cream Sandwich.
Well, they have shown it running Ice Cream Sandwich last week. I did a video. It went on the internet. And
take my camera, please.
Right now it's not Ice Cream Sandwich, but they have shown it running. And it like next month or so, or 2 months from now, it's going to be ready and
released. This is a 10-inch tablet?
Yeah, so it's a 10-inch. It's $330.
$330 US from Arcos. Wow.
And
Arcos is a French company, yes?
Yeah, and I think, you know, I have a website, it's called arcosfans.com. I think actually Arcos invented the tablet. I mean, of course, Microsoft was first with the Intel-powered,
Yeah.
but Arcos was doing...
The ARM tablet was an Arcos
Yeah, they was
creation.
using Qtopia, like
Right.
kind of like before Android. There was apps.
I remember very well, Tech TV picked that Arcos tablet as its CES, or maybe it was even Comdex product. I think it was our Comdex product of the year. In do you remember that? Maybe back in 2001, yeah.
Yeah.
So absolutely, we've been Arcos fans for many, many years, and they still make the best low-price tablets. In the past, Arcos hasn't been a great choice because you've had to download additional codecs. It's been more complicated than, say, an iPad. But I think now with Android, they've gotten very close to iPad capability.
Yeah, for sure, they're for geeks.
Yeah.
I've got to ask. We haven't made any
Speaking
mention
of geeks,
sorry.
of
what
the
is
fact
Nicholas
that
wearing?
You may be part cyborg. What's going on?
So,
I was playing with this earlier, and it's really cool.
so I'm live streaming from my head. It goes through a laptop, but at CES, hopefully, it's no need for a laptop. It's going to live stream on Ustream. It's gonna there's gonna be a built-in 4G or LTE. I'm gonna try to figure out
Into
which
that
one.
thing you're wearing?
Yeah, and it's gonna live stream the whole day from 9 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock from my head. It's gonna be right here, and then in here I can see the Ustream. I can see the Ustream IRC chat.
The chat, so you can watch the chat as it's going.
Now, are
and
you
respond
live
to it.
now?
If the Wi-Fi works, it reconnects automatically. Ustream.
see. It
And
works,
I have to
and
check
you
the
probably
screen.
are. It's working very
but
well
you just
here.
wear the headset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
it
in
works.
case.
It works in this building
Yeah.
better, but it's working really well now because you know why? Everybody's at lunch. Nobody's online.
Oh, yeah.
So you're streaming right now.
Yeah.
I would be willing to bet.
But by CES, in the corner, I would be able to see the status of my own video.
That's
Maybe
great.
I would even be able to see my own video.
Now
And-
you showed me that running Android.
Well, it can remote
And
desktop to any OS,
Ah, I see.
but it's
And
Windows
speech.
CE right now.
Windows CE, and it was speech recognition, so I was able to
Yeah.
say play music, and it gave me my list, things like that.
Yeah, there's a very directional microphone in here. So this is a prototype by Motorola. So basically, Google is making this,
Oh, interesting.
and it's going to be an accessory for every smartphone in 2012. you can basically add it to your Android, and you can have your Android in your face, in your head.
Oh, who wouldn't want that?
Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want to walk around
You
like
see,
that?
this is a real use for augmented reality. Maybe. This
Augmented reality, yeah, yeah,
But you
yeah.
I guess you just have to figure out who your audience is, too.
yeah, like crazy guys.
I
Party.
like it. I want
Like,
one.
Crazy
I'm
guys.
crazy. I want
No,
one.
this is right up your alley.
So,
You wouldn't want to wear this?
I probably wouldn't, but I bet Leo would look great in
You
one.
bet.
Yeah.
I already wore it. I told you. I wore it before the show even began. I wore it on Thursday or Wednesday.
So if
Anyway, Nicolas, thank you for joining us. Nicolas Charbonnier. It is, just tell us the two websites again.
So armdevices.net.
armdevices.net and arcosfans.com.
Fans.com. That's just a forum where people post about it.
ARCHOS. And what's the name of this Arcos 10-inch tablet?
So this is the Arcos 101 G9.
Is that out now?
Yeah, that's
and
now.
When will they update it to Ice Cream Sandwich?
They said Q1 2012, so it could
Okay.
be any time between January and March. And this is a Arnova. This is $149, and this is also able to run Ice Cream Sandwich.
Wow. It's a 7-inch tablet, the Arnova. Is that also from Arcos?
Yeah.
And it's $150.
$150 is selling right now in all these Amazons and all that.
They've made some really low price.
Yeah.
And that if I get it now, it wouldn't be on Ice Cream Sandwich.
Not right now, but they have shown it running. The thing is,
what ARM processor's in there?
so this is a Rockchip, is a Chinese ARM processor, and it's the Rockchip
Is it
says it's
Cortex based or
yeah, Cortex A8. They say it's 20% faster than iPad 1, so it's not like iPad 2.
right?
But it's single core,
single core. Yeah.
1.2 gigahertz.
Yeah. Very interesting. Wow. Nicolas, so nice to see you. Thank you for coming by.
Nice to
Thank
see
you.
We'll see you again, I hope, soon.
I'm a big fan. I watch
Yeah.
every show.
Nicolas Charbonnet,
Great.
Bye-bye.
great to have him from Switzerland and his headset and his Arcoses. He's a great Arcos evangelist, and I think, frankly, Arcos isn't doing a very good job of that, so I'm glad somebody is. It's really great. Thank you, Nicolas. Great to see you. We're still waiting on Loic Le Meur, so I'll tell you what, we'll take a little bit of a break, and thank you for being here. You are watching us live from Le Web, Paris, 2011. Sarah Lane and Leo Laporte. Thanks
What do you
for being
think?
here.
Little coffee?
Little coffee? I'd love some. I'll just stay here. I'll just stay here, and if somebody will get me some coffee and water, I will just continue to talk, because I don't want our stream to go dead.
I'm actually just going to get some water. Do you
Go
want
get
coffee?
some water. Water's fine.
Okay.
There's Gabe. I see Gabe Rivera. Why don't we just bring Gabe in, and we can go out of order. Because Gabe is going to be our guest, was going to be our guest in about 10 minutes, but I think we could do him now. You can go take a break if you want.
No, it's okay.
All right. Gabe Rivera is the founder of TechMeme. He,
in fact, I was just looking at TechMeme without seeing, what do you think the absolute top story is?
Spotify Radio?
No.
I don't know. What is it?
Twitter. New
Twitter, of course. So that's one of the things I want to ask Gabe about. TechMeme, TechMeme,
that's
is
right.
actually the first place I go almost every morning. But I go there because it's not every tech news story. It's the important tech news stories.
Well, and it's an aggregate. So, for example, the top story on TechMeme right now is Twitter's own post about their design on their blog.
But then below it,
links to
they have John
similar
Gruber,
stories.
Nick Bilton, Dan Fromer.
Welcome, Gabe.
Gabe Rivera. Just put that, when you talk, put that microphone right in your mouth. We're live.
Almost
in your mouth. Nearly in your mouth.
Close
We're
to your
live from
mouth.
Low Web Paris 2011 with Gabe Rivera, the founder of TechMeme.
Hi, Gabe.
You still run it, right?
Hi, Sarah. Hi, Leo.
Full-time job.
Great to be here. Yep, I'm still running it. We're like just over 10 people now when I add up all our editors around the world.
That was something you changed a couple of years ago. It used to be purely algorithmic. The computer would decide what stories.
It was like Google News.
Right.
But I don't think that was the best approach in the long run.
And you're happy now with, I think I'm very happy with it. I was just telling Sarah, first website I go to every morning. And I bet you there's quite a few people who feel the same way.
I loved when you said that on the air. It's it's a blurb on my sponsor page. It says a picture of you. I hope that's
No,
cool.
you're kidding. Really? No, it's absolutely true, though. But one of the things that you get some heat about occasionally is there are certain blogs or sites that will show up almost consistently and some that don't. How does somebody get on TechMeme?
So the old-fashioned way before we added editors was if a blog post is linked to by like blog posts from other blogs, like if a bunch of
it was almost like PageRank.
Yeah, there's like a PageRank, but for tech sites, and a limited amount of time. So if everyone's linking to the GigaOM story, that would be the one that shows up, and that's still largely true. They're just sometimes it doesn't always make it. And sometimes we add our own picks as well, but we try to show what's like the most relevant, the most essential stuff you need to know, and because some sites get more scoops than others because they're more connected to what's happening and they have better sources or whatever. Some show up more than others, and that's fine. There's never been equality in any kind of media space.
It's a meritocracy.
Yeah. I'd say TechMeme's a meritocracy, given what our goals are,
right,
and how we want to appeal to readers in the way that they need. I think our standards are fair.
What about the Twitter handles that you added to, let's say, okay, so for example, Twitter's blog, Let's Fly, is the name of the blog post, is at the top of TechMeme right now.
Mm-hmm.
In the discussion area are a variety of other blogs that are linking to this, discussing this, but then you also see Emily Chang TV, which is her Twitter handle, who, if I click on it, takes me to the permalink of the tweet where she's discussing this. Who do you have a certain...
Can I weigh in? I don't like that, by the way.
Really?
Well,
is it because you're never part of it?
No. Oh, no, not at all. But I want a story.
But
so
there are
all
like
I'm getting
50
is a tweet.
links there. So
you
don't want 50 stories.
I'm
so
smart
don't you
enough
want
now
a few
that
tweets?
when I see the ad sign, I don't click it. I filter it out. But just to me, I want to see the article about Let's Fly. I don't want to see Paris Lemon's tweet about it.
But if somebody that you like and respect has a blurb, I mean, a tweet can be an opinion or a thought or a criticism. I'm inclined to click on those when I'm curious to see what somebody weighed in about on Twitter about the topic.
I guess
we try to be selective about what we have, about when we add tweets. There's usually a value add. They're usually saying something, and I hope if you click on one now that it's consistent with what I just
well,
said.
Let's see what MG Siegler says about the new Twitter. He says his
they're
tweet
pithy.
is new Twitter still looks like new Twitter.
So that's an opinion, whether you like it or not.
And people care what MG thinks, so I think.
Look, I'm busting your chops. It's not the end of the world it doesn't make it any less useful to me. It's like, well, that's a nice feature.
Yeah,
what I go to TechMeme for is what you absolutely clearly want to do, which is what are the stories that the tech world is talking about? What are the most important? What's the zeitgeist in the tech world, right, at this moment? And I think you do that perfectly well. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying you could leave those out. I wouldn't miss them.
Sometimes we absolutely need them because sometimes they are the things that convey the story, at least for the first hour or whatever.
Right. Yeah, that's when it's big breaking news. I think that's probably true. So how did you start this? You're a young guy, and you've been doing this a long time.
Sort of. So, so I was in a completely different field. Well, technical, but not media at all. I was a compiler engineer at Intel, and
no kidding.
Yeah. So I had background.
So Intel does reference compilers for each new processor platform. Kind of, right? Used to be anyway.
For the overall architectures.
Right.
Yeah,
so there's an x86 reference compiler.
There, there's a compiler for x86 and a compiler for the Itanium line. I was more involved in that, in fact.
No wonder you left.
It's not. These compilers aren't very widely used, but for certain vendors that needed an extra boost for certain kinds of computations or whatever,
It's almost historic when in the old days when you were a chip company and you made a new chip, you had to ship a compiler with a chip. There was no choice, or there'd be no software.
So Microsoft, is the big compiler vendor.
Right. That's changed.
And then GCC on Unix, but.
So you were a heavy computer science guy.
Compilers involve
field.
a lot. It's a nice thing to study. If you ever meet someone who aced the compiler class, they're probably a good coder because it draws on so many different areas of computer science that they're probably well rounded.
We should probably explain that a compiler is what takes the source code, C, C++, whatever it is, human-like language you're writing, and turns it into initially assembly and then machine code so that the computer can actually do something. And it's tricky.
So was TechMeme something that while you're busy working at IBM compiling, you think, gosh, it would be so cool if I could go to this website that gave me the news, the top news, so that I didn't have to think too much about it and I can just get it in this nice stream, and there wasn't something like that? So it was just
there are a few
that
steps in between, and I'll make it not boring, but in 2003, blogging was like, people were really getting excited about blogging, and political blogs were... there's a lot of fervent and influential bloggers. So I looked at those blogs and I realized if I could figure out what they were linking to the most today, that might be an interesting pick of news. So I built a first iteration in 2004.
Was that Memorandum?
Yeah, and I
loved Memorandum.
Still exists. Yeah. And but it used a less sophisticated technology. It didn't do clustering, and it couldn't add sources automatically. So it wasn't. It was like the 1.0. So when it was time to work on the 2.0, that's when I quit my job and hoped it would be a company. And that launched in 2005.
Was it just you at the time?
Yeah. So it launched as tech.memorandum, the subdomain of the Memorandum site. But eventually that got sorted out into TechMeme. And algorithms continued getting more sophisticated. And then...
were you doing the coding yourself initially?
Yeah, so it was just me until late 2007. Hired a friend who's an engineer, this guy Omer, and then I started hiring editors the following year.
Did you ever take venture funding?
Nope.
It's all self.
Yeah, it was self-funded, and we were for 1 year after launch. There was no revenue. I was still working off savings, but once there's revenue, we've always been able to finance everything with it.
The ads are subtle. They're nice. They don't get in the way. You can tell what it is very clearly. It says TechMeme sponsor posts.
Yeah, I think they're nice and they're classy, and it's and it fits in well.
They're often very useful.
Yeah.
And you have sponsors like SoftLayer.
You don't say that very often.
No, you don't say that about ads very often. They're actually
I think we both have something in common here in
SoftLayer.
How we have good ads.
Right. Right.
And they fit in well, and we have relationships with the advertisers, and nothing scammy, nothing.
I think that's the way
ugly.
to do it, and you almost have to do it when you're talking to an intelligent audience.
Yeah.
They can't. They really don't like it if you try to trick them.
There are no accidental clicks on our ads.
Right.
Too.
Right. People either want to read it or don't. Yeah.
In addition to Tech Meme, you also have Media Gazer. There's a sports version, Pop Culture. You've experimented with a lot of different genres that use this model. Which are the most successful?
So I'd say the most successful are still the original Memorandum, because there are people who are super obsessed with politics and like that kind of view of it.
I love Memorandum. I've always that's how I started. That's how I found out about Tech Meme.
It's you go there, you'll find interesting stuff.
Yep.
The celeb one, which is called Resmerch, it's not doing so good because I don't think people want that news in that with that presentation.
Right.
But there are still people who like it, mostly Tech Meme readers who want to see that form, for their celeb news. I'd say Media Gazers are other success. That's the other site we have editors on. It's got a great following among people in media, like
I like it too.
Mini moguls, reporters, people who want to keep up with the state of journalism.
I would think that that's really where editors come in handy, because Tech Meme and Media Gazer do have a lot of crossover. So you wouldn't want the two homepages of each to look too much like each other based on algorithms alone.
Yeah, very often our editors will. Very often the Media Gazer editors need to say, this is too much of a tech story, and likewise, once in a while we're passing on media stories on Tech Meme because Media Gazer does a good job covering.
Okay, one complaint, and then we're going to move on. One more complaint.
I'm used to complaints.
I'm sure you know this, and I'm sure you've heard this before. And I can tell you're old school, because when you click on a link, it doesn't open in a new window. It opens in the same window. I'm sure
There's a
people
setting you can
That's
make.
my complaint too.
You can
Gabe?
go to preferences and set that as a setting.
I had no idea that
Really?
there even were preferences.
Oh yeah, look, preferences, upper right.
Thank
Next
you. I'm
to
going to fix
about.
that.
Open
Thank
links
you.
in new window. Wow, I feel stupid. At least we said something.
So, Gabe, what brings you to the web?
It's Paris. It's got a great set of people going there every year. I usually have some little speaking role every year, maybe token role.
Did you do something?
You run a news panel,
Well,
right?
that's right. The local news. Yeah.
Yeah, I passed you.
Yeah. You went one way, I went the other.
That's right. So it's not the best time of the year to visit Paris, but it's Paris, and also it's maybe it's my only chance to see some of these people from San Francisco. In fact,
I know, isn't that funny? It's all the people that we already see, but
all in one
place, all in one spot,
and then a few that I almost never see in San Francisco.
Right.
Absolutely.
Anything that you're an interesting kind of startup. You're a very successful startup. It's self-funded. You're a very different kind of startup from a lot of the startups here. But I bet you people come up to you and talk to you and say, give me some advice. How have you scaled? How have you handled this and that?
Yeah. Well, a lot of advice they want is, how do I get on Tech Meme? Or why don't I get on Tech Meme?
Yeah, I bet.
I hear that a lot, but
I see a lot of people complaining about that on Twitter.
Yeah.
They'll tip Tech Meme, but then they won't get on Tech Meme, and then they'll complain as if that's all you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're over time, first I went to the point where, I was sort of hardened and it didn't bother me. And then I went beyond that, and I actually enjoy some of the complaining. Whatever evil people do with their hands. I enjoy it, but once in a while there's a complaint, or someone says we pass them over and they're right, and sometimes we respond to that. But a lot of it is just bad writers who haven't come to terms with their being bad.
Please feature me. Anything you've seen here that you're excited about? Any new companies or announcements?
Probably, although my brain doesn't
work. It's hard to remember,
that way.
I know.
Yeah.
I have to stop asking that question. I have yet to get a good answer on it. So it's kind of the traditional conference question. What do you see? What do you hear? Well, thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you again.
It was great to stop in.
We got to get you back on the Twit sometime soon.
Right. Gabe's the smart one who wore a short sleeve T-shirt.
Yeah.
Although our sauna isn't so much of a sauna today.
We have air conditioning in the sauna.
It's pretty nice.
Makes me sad, actually.
Yeah.
You
missed the sauna and sweating near our
I
guests.
feel that we've not really done our job unless we're uncomfortable. You know,
We can make it uncomfortable.
It has to be hard.
Would
to
you
do
like
this.
to be more
I sit on
uncomfortable?
nails. That's
Okay.
one way I do it.
All
So
right.
thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Gabe.
Thanks,
Really appreciate.
Gabe.
He wants to get out of here.
He's like,
Gabe
I'm
Rivera,
done.
techmeme.com, great site. And we want to thank you all for being here. You're live, we are live, and you're watching live as we cover Le Web 2011, Loic Le Mer's amazing conference in Paris, France. Leo Laporte with Sarah Lane. Back at Le Web with Sarah Lane, I'm Leo Laporte. Le Web 2011 in Paris, France, and look who's here, Brent Hoberman, who is a great European entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur from the Great Britain. It's good to see you again, Brent.
Good to see you too.
How are you? Did you just get in?
No, just got here to you, but no, I've been here in Paris for a couple of days.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Did you present yet?
No, we're just on the judging panel, judging the final panel with the French. I'm the only non-French on the judges panel, so it's fun.
So have you seen some good startups, some interesting stuff?
I've just bumped into serendipity, but I haven't been. I will know more after the panel, unfortunately.
You haven't yet done
I
the
haven't
judging.
done the judging, so yeah.
So you started a lastminute.com, which is probably better known in the UK than it is to our US audience.
I like Europe, but yeah.
Okay, Europe, I'm sorry.
Yes, true. Yeah,
better
true.
known to Europe than it is to the
Absolutely,
US
yeah,
audience. And then after that, you have mydeco.com, right?
mydeco.com and made.com.
That's right.
And ProFounders Capital.
That's the thing. That's the is it early stage investment?
It's only entrepreneurs. It's the sort of entrepreneurs backing entrepreneurs model, which is rarer here.
Is it?
It's a bit rarer, yeah. There's like 3 or 4 good funds doing that in France and a few in the UK as well. But they've all come up over the last couple of years. That's what's really interesting about the ecosystem is that you've now got these guys who made money in the first wave. Probably, Nicholas Zenstra maybe being one of the best examples because he's just he's raising a very big fund already, raised one big fund, raising an even bigger one. Ours is a relatively small fund, sort of $40 million. But we will hope, if we prove we're spending it wisely, so far we are, that we'll increase that, raise a new fund, a bigger one next time.
That's really critical to the ecosystem, and I know that you've talked a lot about why there isn't a good startup ecosystem in Europe compared to, say, the States. Part of it is money, but a lot of it is mentoring.
I think the most obvious thing is scale. The problem is scale and platforms. The platforms in the US and the scale we don't have. So the one thing people talk less about here, actually, I think, is that when you're in America, you're told that Europe is this massive market of so many 100 million people, and it's just not, and sadly, it's not true.
There's Poland, there's Hungary,
and that's the problem with, there may be one unexpected consequence of the current Eurozone crisis, is actually when they talk about more political and fiscal integration, maybe that actually means we'll get more of a market for companies to expand properly across Europe. When we did it at lastminute.com, that's why I was saying I was proud to be European, but we had to buy businesses in other markets.
Interesting.
We weren't that clever that we were able to say, oh, we can just expand across. Unless you are a Skype-like platform, it's very, very rare you'll find examples of companies that are truly pan-European.
Is it the language barrier? Is that the problem?
It's much more than just language. I mean, that's the problem. It's language, it's regulatory, it's hiring policies, it's obviously culture as well. But there are some things I think where the EU could flatten it. There's protectionism in basically amongst all the Euro countries. There is still levels of protectionism, I think.
Yeah.
And so one needs to knock that on its head, because otherwise what happens is that the US companies buy the local winners and get the benefits of having the pan-European winner. And that doesn't get, and those proceeds don't get to Europe.
But we are starting to see some billion-dollar European companies. We're starting to see some real successes.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is very exciting.
It's great. No, I mean, I think the platform ones are most, I mean, ones like Spotify where they are platforms, global platforms are really interesting. Even Badoo now, next generation dating we've seen. So there are some that very quickly, I think we can be quicker at leveraging off the platforms. And obviously we do have serious offices of Facebook and Google now in Europe where you can do your biz dev deals, some of it there. And
that's interesting. So that's important too.
Yeah.
A U.S. presence in
I think
Europe.
that's the other thing, is that's happening. And then the other thing, obviously, is we've got Tech City coming up in London. I don't know whether you've spoken about that on the program much. But so East London Tech City is a big initiative. I mean, what's fascinating now is there is an arms race across the world, but an arms race in Europe for governments to attract entrepreneurs.
Right.
So what the UK said, let's leverage the Olympic presence and let us create, after the Olympics, as a legacy, a massive cluster of startup companies in East London once the Olympics is finished.
That's a good idea.
So there's a lot that's happening. They've persuaded big companies to move there, to have presence there. So that cluster's happening. And then we've also had from Shoreditch, there's been this cluster of some successes, like Moshi Monsters is probably the best known one that we think might be the first billion-dollar company to come out of Shoreditch. And there's others like that. So they're saying, right, this is happening anyway. Let the government use its convening power and its power to create the ripple in that part of London.
I don't want to hog Brent.
Yeah.
Okay.
You wrote an article a couple of years ago saying that, and I quoted it many times, so I want to make sure you still agree, that part of the problem is a lack of culture of failure, an acceptance of failure. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I think it gets better, but we still don't actually have that many examples. I mean, partly what you need is examples of people who've really failed and then done well.
Right.
You know,
so it's still too early to have
It's still
that.
too. I mean, I think Morton Lunt, who spoke here a couple of years ago, is a fascinating example of somebody who actually went bankrupt and got on stage in front of several thousand people here and said, this is very un-European. I mean, Morton is an eccentric character. He won't mind me saying that, I think. You know, so he's rare. He's not very European typical. But he went up and said that. And now he's got two companies, Everbread and an invoicing one that are doing Tradeshift, that are doing very well. So he may just prove that you can bounce back again.
That's good.
So I think examples like that are what's necessary. There is, but it comes from a much deeper cultural, it comes from an aristocratic culture where ambition is frowned upon.
Right.
And this is why the American meritocracy is rapidly coming to Europe.
That's a very good point. As the aristocracy falls, it can be more egalitarian.
Yeah. We're in a geek chic culture, and we've seen...
It is really becoming that way, and it's certainly true in the
amazing.
States, and I think if you get that here...
It's coming here, and what we're seeing is this is what's fascinating to see, the examples of President Sarkozy courting entrepreneurs. I had an event in London where David Cameron hosted us at number 10 for entrepreneurs. So this stuff is really... It's happening because the geeks are... And even in fashion, a funny thing to take this across continents. I was in China with the Eve Group, which is a fashion brand in China, and she's a men's fashion brand. And very upmarket, and the way she's breaking through is actually getting the top Chinese internet entrepreneurs to wear her clothes. So they are. So it's not the normal celebrities; it's the top entrepreneurs who are now becoming trend stylists, which you would never imagine.
That's fascinating.
Great.
That's really, really good news.
Gosh, can you imagine Silicon Valley if ambition was frowned upon?
It'd be a very different place.
Fashion, you might argue, is frowned upon.
Uppity. Stop that. Is it still important for European entrepreneurs to succeed in the U.S.? Is that still an important part of the process, or is it not necessary anymore?
I think there are enough. Obviously, I mean, there are enough billion-dollar companies here. I think there still may be maybe an ego thing about
ego more than money.
I think ego more than money, and I think there's an originality thing. So the other big debate we have here is: do we copy or do we originate?
And some people have done very well copying.
Yes, and I would argue that's great if making money is your main goal, but for true entrepreneurs, I don't think that's the same goal. That's the goal. It's a nice side effect.
Right.
So we respect most again, and that goes back to your point about failure. To be first, you can't just copy an existing model in the States, and to enter the States, you can't copy it. You've got to be bold and original, and then you can take it into the States.
I have to say, having come here now a couple of years in a row, I've seen a definite shift each year. As there is this more and more of this entrepreneur culture here, and it's really exciting.
It is exciting. No, it is getting more and more dynamic. It is that it's back in some senses to the best parts of what happened in 2000. You know, you remember those years where actually there were some very good parts pre-bubble.
Right.
So I'm not saying we're in a bubble. I think there is that absolute young people with enthusiasm, with ambition to conquer the world, and that's happening.
Brent, it's so great to see you again. Brent Hoberman, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We're live from Le Web in Paris. Leo Laporte and Sarah Lane.
And we've got coffee. Maybe my brain will start working again. Cheers to you.
I want to make sure you get a chance to talk to Brent, but I understand that he and I we have a thing going on.
Well, clearly he didn't look at me once.
That's not true.
I'm kidding.
That's not true.
Why step on you guys when it's like
we were in a groove.
You were in a groove.
We're in a groove. Let's see. Let me look at our schedule real quick.
That is good stuff.
You know, it's one of Loic's sponsors. This is actually in some ways kind of a surprise. Is Nespresso, and that's the coffee maker where they put the little pod in and you.
It doesn't seem like it's going to be good at all.
You don't expect good coffee.
We have some in the hotel room, and I didn't want to go downstairs and go outside the other morning. It was raining, so I went, okay, I'll try this.
Normally,
I'll try
in the
this
States,
out.
hotel coffee is terrible.
Avoid it at
Horrible.
all costs.
It's an old Mr. Coffee.
Exactly.
You don't know what's been run through there. I think people washing their underwear in the basket.
Many days. Yeah. But no, it's delicious. Then again, the whole coffee culture is different. Certainly in France, but Europe in general. I mean, you get a cafe, and it's much
love
different
it.
than something that
I
you're going to get at Starbucks.
Love it.
I love it too.
I love it.
Well, because you get your jolt, and you don't have to drink this much.
Look at the size of the cup.
Look at this little thing. It doesn't seem like it's going to work. But
So I just, I know you, those of you watching at home in the States are laughing right now. But in the States, we go to Dunkin' Donuts, and the cup is this big.
Right.
It's this big.
yes.
And that's
true.
a good cup of coffee. If you gave somebody this, a truck driver in the States, this.
Can you imagine?
What is that for me to spit in? What is that?
Yeah. They say,
What is that?
I have to drink it with my pinky up, so posh. Now, I would argue about the Dunkin' Donuts being good coffee. I had
I don't
coffee
think
there.
it's good coffee, but I tell you, I've
It
had
is
this
not very
conversation.
good. Now, I know that you East Coasters will rake me over the
I'm with you
coals.
on this.
It's not really very good, but neither here nor there.
We're running on an espresso today, and
We
thank
truly
them for
are.
an
We're still
espresso.
waiting on Loic Lemur, who's obviously being held up by his own conference.
How dare he?
He's a bit of a.
What
he's
does he
a
have
bit of
something
a
to do?
Big deal. He's a pretty big deal. People know him.
You know what's funny? It's kind of interesting. In the U.S., Loic is well known. Everybody loves Loic because he and Geraldine are just wonderful. They're down to earth. They're fun.
Smart, social.
Smart, but he's just one of many.
Mm-hmm.
And here, I think he's really kind of a big deal.
Well, yes. Here, particularly at his conference.
He's kind of a big deal.
But in Europe, many entrepreneurs have said that to me. It's like Loic is sort of he's a superstar because
he's a role
somebody
model.
who gives people the platform
Exactly.
to make it, really.
So I'm going to treat him better from now. You know, one of the reasons I think one of the reasons that in the U.S. he's less respected is because for a long time he rode a Segway around.
No.
Oh yeah.
No.
Yeah. And I don't think anybody looks dignified or respectable riding one of those
Unless
Segways.
you're Woz.
Even Woz.
Woz looks good on a Segway because he's so
Yeah,
enthusiastic.
but he's not the master of dignity. I would never use the word dignity in Woz. in the same-
Elegant, no.
No.
Segways are not elegant. Although I did see a Segway tour. I was at the top of the Eiffel Tower the other day,
Yeah?
looking down.
They have Segways here?
They have Segway tours.
You took a Segway tour, Eileen?
Eileen took
Now,
a Segway tour.
You can back me up on this. There's no way you can look cool, sophisticated, or elegant standing on a Segway. First of all, you're 9 feet tall. You're wearing a dorky helmet, and you're going like this.
Why do people look cool on
You didn't wear a helmet?
skateboards?
Oh, it's France. You don't need helmets.
Yeah.
Helmets are an American thing.
Skateboard, BMX bike, Segway. It just seems like the next evolution.
When Loic gets here, we'll ask him why he stopped riding around on a Segway. 'Cause he did
around San
stop.
Francisco, Loic used to ride around on a Segway?
And he stopped, and there's actually a story behind that.
Oh, boy.
Coming
I
up a
hope it's
little
good
later
one.
on, Marco Tempst. And if you want to know more about him, he's an internet magician, really interesting fellow. He'll be here. He's not going to do magic for us, but we'll show a little video. You might have seen him. He did an amazing TED Talk.
That's how I know him.
yeah.
I'm looking at his website is Marco Tempst, TEMPEST.com.
PST. I don't think there's an E there. Oh, Tempest.
TEMPEST.
Yeah, you're right. Marco Tempest. I've been saying
Yes.
Tempst. You're right. And
Tempest.
that's a
Marco Tempest.
misspelling in our own notes. All right. MarcoTempest.com. Also, we scored a little bit of a... Yeah, bring a startup in. No, absolutely. We scored a little bit of a hit coming up. Jean-Marie Hulot, who is a very interesting fellow. He was a CTO at Next, working with Steve Jobs. Steve brought him to Apple, where he was the CTO at Apple for quite some time. And it is said, and we will ask Jean-Marie, that he was the guy who told Steve Jobs, Steve, you've got to do a phone. And if
Really?
that should be an interesting story. He's got I think, a really great site, a Wikipedia for photography called Photopedia. So we'll talk to him in just a little bit.
Photopedia is heavily integrated with the Web Talks here. About 5 seconds after each talk ends, there's a link that goes out on Twitter
Oh, really?
to these beautiful Photopedia slideshows with little blurbs about what was discussed, certain
Well, and
pictures.
he has 7 or 8 iPad apps.
Yes.
So there's a tour of Paris.
I
There's
have.
Paris from the
in
sky.
fact, we've talked about it on
I
iPad
know,
today.
it's
There's
really
a
great
new
stuff.
Japan edition.
Yeah, that's great.
That I think was App of the Week
Thank you.
a few weeks ago.
So let's say hello to Asaf Margali. Is that
Hello.
right? Am I saying it right? Pick up
Hello.
that microphone, Asaf.
There you go.
He's the CEO of Tap2Print.
Yes.
What is Tap2Print?
Tap to Print is the only solution today that enables application developers to sell real products directly from their applications.
What kind of products? Like mugs,
well,
T-shirts?
Yeah, it can be personalized products like these
Magnets?
nice magnets or cards or things like that.
So
But
is it photographers primarily, or?
It can be for photographers, for graphical applications, but also non-personalized products like if you have a sports team application and you want to sell to your fans T-shirts or hats, or if you
Angry
want
Birds
to
has made a little
Angry
bit of
Birds-
money on that stuff.
Exactly. If you want
Yeah.
to increase your brand
Right.
existence in the market by
Okay, I'll buy.
doing
We
that.
do.
Okay.
So
but
now I could integrate this right into my website.
you can do it, you can put it in your website, you can put it in your application. It takes one line of code.
So it's
And-
kind of like an e-commerce platform, but
Exactly.
specifically for printing.
But we did something bigger than that because it's not only the platform. We created a global print and delivery service.
So you do fulfillment as
We
well.
fulfill, we do the customer service.
That's
we
great.
give the application developer everything apart from his creativity. He needs still to create and to bring users, but we do all the operational part of it.
I'm liking this. I'm gonna hand this to my CEO.
Okay.
I think we need this. We need this for our company. Are you here as part of the startup demo, or are you
I just came to visit.
Just
My
came to visit.
investor is French,
Uh-huh.
and I came
Where
to
are you
meet him
based?
in Israel.
In Israel. You know, I think that we talk a lot about European entrepreneurialism, but there's no question in my mind that Israel is every bit as active and exciting as the States is in terms of startups and entrepreneurialism. There are some amazing companies in Israel right now.
Yeah, it feels like a big nursery for
Yeah, it
startups.
does. What do you we've been asking a lot of, we just asked Brent Hoberman, we've been asking a lot of European entrepreneurs, what's missing here? Why isn't that happening here? Why is it that it happened in Israel? And was there government support for it early on?
Well, maybe I can relate to both questions because
Okay.
I was wandering around here also. First, in Israel is very small. And any business you try to form there, if you'll approach only Israel, it will not survive because there are less than 7 million people there. So initially,
it's tiny. That really is small, yeah.
So initially, you try to be global. You don't even think local. And it broadens the way you think.
Right.
And also, because it's so small, there is a kind of environment that supports you. People that did it before come back and help you when you are still in your first steps.
That's key.
We heard the same thing about Berlin yesterday.
Yeah.
And
Brent was talking about that. You need an ecosystem where mature entrepreneurs will help the new startups.
Yeah. And I give you an example here. This event is amazing. I met amazing people here from many, many directions. But there are, in the booth of the startups here, there are only 6 startups.
Right.
And it costs about $10,000 or euros to have a booth, which is not a startup dimension
It's
at
too
all.
expensive.
I would recommend to having such an amazing event the opportunity for new startups to promote themselves because they are the next generation.
Right.
They will be here in 4 years from now. So the whole environment needs to think about the new generation all the time.
I think you're absolutely right. Keep that mic right in your face there. I think you're absolutely right. When Loic gets here, I'm going to tell him that. He should have free startup demos, because I think you're right. I think you need to foster that to make it work.
Are there any conferences in Israel currently? I know not on the scale of Le Web, but...
We'd like to go, is what we're saying.
Yes, exactly.
There are
But
many.
it seems like it would be a really great place to bring people in.
Well, there are no big conferences in Israel, but there are many small. Like every month, there are probably like 3 or 4 of them.
Every month?
And for new startups, there are like a few events that all the startups come. One of them is called Mobile Monday. Another one is Tech Aviv, and there are some others, which is kind of a supportive community for startups. They can stand up in the middle and say, I'm looking for a R&D manager. And
That's what
like
user
that.
groups used to be like. I can't figure out how to get this to work.
Yeah.
You'd stand up and somebody would help you.
Yeah.
I think that's really important to have that sense of cooperating, working together, collaborating.
I think so too, and I think that Europe, by the way, there is a tremendous amount of talent and of young startups in Europe. They are here everywhere. I meet them. And also there is some very strong part in Europe, which is the ability to design things that feels good and look good. That's part of the European tradition and the artistic. Yeah. And this is what matters today.
Yeah.
I mean, what makes application or website successful today is the user experience. It's not technology anymore.
I think
so
you're right.
The potential here is just huge.
Yeah. That's so nice to meet you. And good
Same
luck
here.
with Tap2Print. It's TAP, the number 2, PRINT.com.
Yes, and can I...
Plug.
So I'm inviting innovators, app developers, people that want to tap into this opportunity to sell real products from their application, to connect me, and we see how it goes.
Good.
Good luck to everybody.
Thank you.
so
Asaf
much,
Margalit,
Asaf.
it's great to meet you.
Nice to have you. Thanks for coming by. And again, someone we didn't even know we were going to interview.
Well,
at
you know
the
what
web.
happens?
That's the beauty, because people
and
walk by.
I'm encouraging people to do that, is to stop by so we can talk to them, because I want to get as broad a range. Yesterday, a couple of people in the chat room, I think incorrectly, complained that we had too many Americans on, and we do have a number of Americans, because that's who we know. But I think we've also been highlighting startups from around the area, and some very interesting ones all along.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're watching live coverage of Le Web 2011 from Paris, France. Leo Laporte and Sarah Lane will have more in just a little bit.
Marco, do you want to come up? Eileen?
Marco's here. All right.
Marco Tempest?
Marco Tempest. We've been talking about the Tempest. So what we're going to do with Marco is going to have his laptop, and he's got a video. And so as we talk, you'll play the video so people can see what you're doing. So I guess you'll show it to this, or no, we have to show it. Is it okay? Is this going to be in the way? Okay, so we've got it. So we'll figure it out so that
I'll
it's,
take this.
the mic stand is out of the way. Just push it forward a little bit more. Yeah, good. He likes it.
That's good.
Our director likes it.
Is it okay here too?
So Marco can see it? Yes, I love you.
Now here's your microphone.
All right.
So you can tell us
if everybody goes
what's
to
going on.
marcotempest.com, you can learn all about Marco, and you can see his amazing TED Talk that he gave. When was that?
That was in July in Edinburgh.
That must have been fun.
Yeah, that
was TED Global.
Super awesome experience.
Now, did you start as a magician?
I started as a magician and very soon got into technology and adding technology to my magic. I think it's really important that as an artist, you kind of put the stuff you truly love into your work. And so to me, that's gadgets and technology.
Yeah, perfect. You call it magic for both sides of your brain. Or CNN did. So, do you want to show the video? And
Yeah,
talk a little
let
bit about what
me
you do?
run this. So here's just a few things I'm working on currently. So here's something with the Kinect, which gives me superpowers. So I have
that's
like
great.
particles coming out of my hand. This is a piece where I use augmented reality with playing cards and kind of tell the story of playing cards. Here is using robotics, pattern recognition. Here's something which uses a clean room where things disappear in a hermetically sealed room. So a lot of the stuff involves actually open source software and coding and collaborating with people. So a lot of it is this is a very cool thing. It's,
I love that.
I have a high-speed camera which is on a projector, and it tracks infrared tracking markers in the corners of a canvas I'm holding. So now I can project onto that canvas and have like physics simulation, and then interact with it and surprise my audience in many ways.
People must go nuts when you do things like that on the street.
Yeah, it's really a lot of fun to take things out and try them out very
yeah.
close to the people. This is kind of how these things look like when I work corporate jobs. I help brands emotionalize their content. So this is working for brands like cell phones or big automotive companies, and kind of using their products and their imaging and kind of adding a little bit of emotion to it.
Magic is always, I get the sense, is always used a little bit of technology, just you hide it.
Yeah, I think traditionally magicians are kind of the early adapters of
geeks.
technology.
Yeah.
They are geeks, and they try to be just a little bit ahead of the public and
Right.
kind of use that to their advantage.
Yeah, but they don't want you to know that they're doing it.
Yeah.
So you're, in a way, you're bringing the technology forward.
It's like I love to be my magic to be like stories about stories and about storytelling, and sometimes the magic can get into that into the way of that. So it's if the magic tricks are too strong, then maybe the audience just talks about the effect and not about the content.
Right.
So for me, saying, hey, this is technological and there's a lot of technology involved, eases the audience out a little bit of that, of thinking, how did he do it? So they can say, oh yeah, it probably was technology, but what he said might be interesting and worthwhile starting a conversation. So this is just like kind of the look and feel of when this happens on stage.
You've benefited also from things like YouTube, the fact that people can see what you're doing all over the world now.
Yeah, YouTube is a super amazing vehicle for magic. It's also very frightening because it's on YouTube people will talk about your tricks and will reveal how they were done.
Right.
So what I did on YouTube, I used to shoot these camera phone magic videos.
Probably people have seen these because they were huge, millions of views.
Yeah, I have like 30+ million views on my channel, which is super awesome because whenever I put something out, I get immediate feedback. And I think the feedback is the really great part about YouTube, where you can put something out when it's not quite ready and say, hey, what do you guys think about this?
Right.
Am I onto something? And then immediately you know it's crap or it's fantastic.
Well, you must have really good YouTube commenters because usually relying on YouTube comments is one of the most deflating things you can ever do.
I remember you were one of the first people to use the iPhone in magic tricks.
Yeah, I did this thing.
This is like early, 2007, right?
This was half an hour after the iPhone was released. I uploaded a video with doing magic with the iPhone. This was way before apps were even.
So how did you know? I mean, it hadn't even come out yet. How did you prepare it? Did you make a video ahead of time?
I made a video of how I imagined it would look like when it operates, and I had it in like 7 or 8 different formats. I had a pre-release of iTunes on my laptop. And we loaded the video into the phone in the store, and the guys in the Apple store were like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Look, you can do this. I can use it as a shaper. It can X-ray my hand." And like,
I saw those videos, and it blew me away because it had just come out. And you were already using it to do magic.
Yeah, it was a sneaky thing to kind of use the iPhone's initial promotion to get a little bit of spotlight.
Well, and again, without YouTube, I think probably a lot of people wouldn't know your name. But thanks to YouTube, 30 million people at least know your name.
Now, magicians historically don't want their secrets revealed. Obviously, you can find out how things are done, but that's obviously frowned upon, and that's how many magicians have their livelihood is because of their secret tricks. Do you care? I mean, considering that you're relying so much on technology in unique ways, do you care if people figure it out? Do you ever explain if they ask nicely? I mean, do you?
No, I don't. I'm not really revealing secrets, but I give the audience kind of that feeling that they're in on it a little bit, so they know. Oh, it's going to use some infrared tracking, or it's something the robot does it, or something. But then in the end, they're still surprised.
Right.
It also has to do, I work international a lot, so if you work in Africa or in the Middle East, so there are some countries where magic is considered something evil. It's magic, right? So it's better to say this is optical illusion, or this is technology, or it's like finger flicking. I'm not evil. I'm a nice guy. See, I'm smiling. So. So it's my stuff is not about revealing secrets, but it's about being open with my audience, include them in the conversation, which I think is kind of a different way of looking at content. When you put stuff online, it's no longer content is king; it's the context. It's like I look at myself as a conversation starter. I host a party on YouTube and invite people to tell me what they think about.
Do you get a kick out of it when someone says, "Okay, I think I know what you did there," and they explain it and they're right?
Yeah, I mean, this is not a conversation magicians generally like to hear, but it is. It's funny, and then there are other people. They come to my defense and they say, "No, you shouldn't give it away." And I think And but even if it is like that, he does it really well.
But does it impress you? If
it's like on YouTube we have this like an analytics tool where if you can go very deep inside a video and see what portion of the video gets watched the most and where people kind of fade out or if they even watch it to the end. And it's very interesting to see where the spikes are, and they're always in the videos exactly where the magic happens, right? It's like there's a kind of there's a lot of rewinding going on, which I don't know if that increases your view count,
I do
but
that.
it's like
I do that.
Okay.
I said, how did he do that? But in a way, because you're using an iPhone, you can tell kind of. It's not hard to figure it out.
And some
doesn't
of these,
take away from the pleasure, though.
And some of these are just puzzles. They're like brain teasers. It's like why did the umbrella shrink, or how did he throw the phone off the roof of his house and then catch it on street level 2 seconds later? How did he get back down there? And some people will say, oh yeah, we drove by and we saw this big crane. I think he jump rope or something, got him down there fast enough, or they hired a company to do that, or like, so it's really fun to see what people come up with.
When you were a kid, were you taking apart all your toys and doing shows for the kids in the neighborhood?
I did shows, and I always liked to make stuff. And now we're at a point in technology where people think of software or gadgets as something which big companies make, but really. You can go online and get the recipe to make your own digital camera and write a software for it if you want to. So it's actually quite amazing. I think as an artist, I might have a chance to, in one way or another, influence the future trajectory of how we use technology or where technology is going. So that's a fascinating playground or field to tap into.
I would think Marco would be really good with a MakerBot.
Yeah,
MakerBot. 3D printing is super magical technology.
Do you write your own code? It sounds like you're doing your own.
Well, I collaborate with a lot of people, so I know a little bit of programming. I'm like a creative coder. I'm not like a deep down programmer, but it's super fascinating. I wish I could donate more time to actually digging deeper.
Or you at least know what to tell people. What you want, even if you don't know how to code it yourself, you know how to explain.
Right.
This is the end result.
How to beg for the. Yeah, absolutely.
So if people want to, by the way, I see you in a Make Magazine T-shirt right there. If people want to know more or see more, of course, you can go to your YouTube site, which is Virtual Magician, youtube.com/Virtual Magician, or marcotempest.com.
Right. Yeah. That's the two.
And
best
you're available
places.
for corporate gigs.
Yes.
Anywhere in the world.
Does magic with technology. Yes.
It's really fun. Tell us about this. Is I think your most recent video.
Yes, that's a piece where I use 3 iPods. So I wrote this app which synchronizes videos across multiple screens of iOS devices. So people can use that app to play videos on screens like the screens behind us, or if you want to do an in-store display, or you want to do something theatrical. It's very cheap to use that software. So I created this piece to kind of show what the software can do. And in this particular piece, I talk about the magic of deception and what magic and deception are all about. So it's kind of a choreography with 3 iPods on a tabletop with a little bit of surprises and magic in it.
Yeah, no kidding. What did you do on stage here at LeWeb?
I talked about creativity and how to not fall into groupthink, which is when a group of people with the same background apply themselves to a problem, and they just come up with tiny increments of whatever they talk about. So like how you can get out of your comfort zone and talk to people with different backgrounds and skill sets. And of course, I showed off some of my magic.
Very cool. Marco Tempest, thank you so much for stopping by.
Well,
we really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Really cool stuff. Virtual Magician on YouTube or marcotempest.com to find out more. Thanks,
you.
Marco.
Thanks.
We're live at LeWeb 2011 in Paris, France. Happy face. I love it. So you wrote this, you commissioned the software, or?
It was a collaboration. So I did part of it, and then the whole network.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, so it has to be on the Wi-Fi network, and that's how they communicate?
Yeah, they communicate to each other. It uses Bonjour, which is kind of this zero-config handshaking. And then you can make playlists of videos and tell them to play consecutively or wait for triggers and stuff like that.
Very, very clever. Very cool. This is a neat video, I have to say. Look at that. Look at that. He's shuffling.
Shuffling iPhones.
Yeah, so this part is like you have to find the queen, and then, of course, it's not there.
You know, it's fun. I mean, this is 720p, and your early videos are like handheld with probably with an iPhone.
Yeah, and before that, even using like the old Nokia.
Your first one had to be
N73, like the first phone whoever had video.
Yeah. I remember very well that first iPhone video because it was like, wow, how did he do that so fast? It was amazing. Very clever. Thank you, Marco.
Well, thank you for having me.
Nice to have you. Look at that. Isn't that cool?
That's so great.
So we have another guest. All right. We're going to bring in.
Thanks, Marco.
It's a never-ending
Enjoy
parade
the
of
rest of your show.
fascinating, creative people. I am watching the chat room at home, and we thank our folks at home for getting up early and watching us. For those of you who would like to tell friends about it, we are going to take all of these, chop them up, and make them available for download on our Twit Specials feed, twit.tv/specials, so you can see a lot of these. And our next guest is very special, so I want to get right to him. You're watching Twit Live from Le Web in Paris, 2011. I'm Leo Laporte.
I'm Sarah Lane.
And our next guest is a legend, and really thrilled to have Jean-Marie Hulot on. Good to have you. Jean-Marie, talk right in that microphone there. Yeah. CTO at Next. Went over to Apple.
Yeah.
I have to ask you before we talk about Photopedia, and by the way, I think Photopedia is a gift to the internet. I really thank you for it.
Thank you very much.
It's very exciting. It is said that you told Steve Jobs you have to do a phone. Is that true?
Absolutely.
When was that?
It was in 2001.
And why was that?
You know, I was in a... I was at Next from the beginning to the end, and I became a very good friend of Steve. But I left Next maybe 3 months before the end because I'm a consumer-oriented person, and Next was getting to do more on software for businesses, which is not really my cup of tea, I must say. And Steve, at the same time, was mostly, to Pixar because it was not his cup of tea either.
He wasn't interested either. Yeah.
So, at that time I said, Steve, okay, I like you very much, but now it's time for me to move to something else. So I went back to Europe, but I stay very much connected with Steve. And, he liked to have a few people like that around the world that he was trusting. And, he was coming quite often to Paris. It's a place that he was liking. So once he came to Paris, it was in 2001, and we were walking, because with Steve, it's always the most important thing happened during a walk. Mm-hmm. And he was asking me what I was seeing for the future, and I told him, Steve, you will have no choice, you will have to do a phone.
Really?
And basically he told me, bullshit.
Yeah, he said, you're wrong. But he was famous for that, right? And then later he probably came back to you and said, Mark, we should do a phone, Jean-Marie.
No, but, so that came later. But no, he told me, but why don't you come back and think about it?
Okay, good. Good.
And so we, I came back I came back, but not physically. I didn't move to the United States because I wanted to stay in Europe for a family reason. And I became CTO of the Apple application division. So that was my worldwide role. And we had a team in Paris, and we were investigating some phone stuff. And beyond that, I don't want to tell anything.
Story is true.
Okay, there you go. Well, thank you. Just thank you, by the way.
Exactly.
You were right.
We really like our phones, so
and
thank you very much.
And you were right, because really this is where computing is happening now.
Mm-hmm.
So Photopedia is a website, but it's also an iPad app. It's also on Flipboard. It's also... So portable is important. Mobile is important.
Yeah, and if we are a website, on the website we are doing in a way our content factory, but this was not a consumer story. So when the iPad came, I said, since we are in the pictures, this is our computer story.
Right.
And we moved extremely fast to try our first application on the iPad, which was Heritage like 14 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been an instant success. The key is that, and it has nothing to do with my relationship with people at Apple, but they love it. And immediately after 2 weeks, it was App of the Weeks all over the world.
Yeah.
Well, it's the sort of app that works so well on an iPad because it's so visual. I know your newest app it's the Japan.
Japan, yeah.
It's great.
Oh,
I love this.
Let me pull up Japan. I've got Mallorca here.
Yeah, Japan. As you have seen, we have lots of contents, and we decided not to go for one application with, to put all of our contents like many are doing. Because if you really want, what we all want with this application is to get traction, to get lots of downloads. And my theory was that, if you really want to get an exponential, it's really hard to achieve with one application, because everybody will tell you that basically you get a bell curve, and after that it gets down. So what we decided is when we reach, when the bell curve is starting to go down, we launch another application, which is pulling the previous ones. And
you keep it going up and up and up.
And if you look at what happened with Japan, in 1 year we did 5 million downloads with our other application. And Japan, which was launched 3 weeks ago, we did 1 million.
In the first week, 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So the idea of this is a Wikipedia for photographs. And photographers are expected to upload their images to this, yes?
Yeah, that's part of the story. We are sourcing pictures from crowdsourcing, which is exactly what you explained.
And you choose, by the way, you choose the license. You can choose a Creative Commons license. You can decide
choose
how
a license you want.
Yeah.
And the only thing, if it is your pictures, you choose a license you want. If you are taking some picture from a Flickr or other place on the internet, it has to be some Creative Commons flavors so that we can reuse it.
And then you look it up and you apply the appropriate license for it.
And we never use, pictures in a place where we should not use them. Like if they have non-commercial, okay, we don't use these pictures in a commercial environment.
Is this commercial? Are you monetizing it?
Oh yeah. For instance, the Japan application, it has been sponsored by Narita Airport. After the catastrophe in Fukushima, they were looking for a solution to talk to all the world, to get people back to Japan, and with a typical Japanese message, very respectful and everything. And it
has a nice sort of splash page when you first launch it.
Absolutely.
Welcome to Japan.
It's not ugly. It doesn't.
It all works. It's the same mood. No, it's beautiful.
But the key is that we have a totally global reach. So we are the one who through the mobile can talk to all the world. And for instance, at this point, 40% of our audience is coming from Asia, and 30% from America, and 30% from Europe, and which was totally different 1 year ago. Because what happened during the year since we started doing mobile application, China exploded, and last week, China became our country #1.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. To what do you attribute that?
First, the Chinese, they are really eager to get these devices, and there is this new, rich people who are, for them it's typically it's a brand. Apple is a big brand, so they get it and they move to it.
Right.
But so that's one factor. The other factor is that these people, from what I can understand, in a way, they jumped over the web.
Yeah.
Immediately landed in the mobile space.
Yeah.
And this is going like crazy.
I think that's going to be the case in many areas, right?
Yeah. But and in our special case, the fact that what we have is extremely visual, is really, it helps. Even before we were localized in China, we got lots of success and traction in China.
Because there's no language barrier. Pictures.
So now we have everything, and in Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. Because country by country, we understand how to crack the country. And after that, when one of our application is entering a country, for instance, South Korea. We went there because we did an application in North Korea. It got instant success in South Korea.
Wait a minute, you did an application in North Korea?
No, we have a photographer.
In North Korea?
A professional photographer who did some work in North Korea, and we got all of his content. We did this application. And instant success in South Korea.
Because they wanted to know what was going on up there.
Yeah, which is normal. But immediately it drove lots of download of all our other applications, Heritage and Burma all of this. And now we are very successful in South Korea. So
interesting.
Country after country, we see this movement happening. And it's really interesting to, kind of look at that real time.
The images are beautiful. Even on the website, they're beautifully displayed. It really is. For people who love photography, gorgeous to see. It's Photopedia with an F, F-O-T-O.
Yeah, it's with an F.
Media.com. So
you're also, you are showcasing all of the web talks as well.
Okay, so that's, in a way, some new experiment. We have a platform which is extremely powerful, in a way. So we want to, I would say for the moment, not make experiment. It's not clear that we want to take this direction at a bigger scale. But covering a live event that was something that I wanted to do since a very long time.
Right.
So, we are using the same tools in the middle, and so we have, there are 7 photographers all around, some from the web, some our photographers, and we have one journalist working with us, And real time, we just absorb all these pictures, and it's thousands and thousands of pictures that we have absorbed. We digest and putting the right metadata and everything.
So
and
there is some editorial going on at
there
your
is
end?
some editorial going, real time. It's very shallow. In a way, what I believe personally, and that's why I took this direction, is that publishing, what works in the mobile world, it's exactly the opposite as was working in the printed world. The old world, in a way, what they were doing is they were writing articles and illustrating with pictures.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now we do the reverse. Our stories are made with pictures, and we illustrate with some
Give
text.
it a little context.
Well, but humans are very visual, so that's it's a very natural thing.
And after that, when you look, at the young people and even less young, but in public transportation, when the network is working, this is you see it in their movement, how they consume the data. This has totally changed.
They're going like that. Flipboard's an interesting thing. So you decided to be part of Flipboard.
Yeah. So it's we have lots of content. In a way, we are a media company, and we can distribute our contents through our own real estate, like our mobile application.
Right.
But now we want to expand, and we want to give our push our contents to some other partners, and Flipboard is the first one of them, but we want to go beyond. And so, but for each distribution channel, in a way, you have to find the form factor that is appropriate.
Right.
So for us, we are very successful with our applications. That's perfect.
Right.
For Flipboard, it's different. What they needed, and I discussed it with Mike, it's these short stories, and I said, okay, so this is what we will do. We will extract, like 10 pictures on a given subject, get, some editorial, and we have various ways to get this editorial depending on where it comes from. The pictures, is it from the community? Is it from, professional photographers, which may have the story already, or organization, which usually have more, text around it.
Right.
So we repackage all of that, and we can do extremely fast because we have to produce quite a lot. It's like for Flipboard, we do 5 stories a day.
Wow.
And
but you have the workflow down. You can do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have 2 contents person
That's
in our
all?
company. That's all.
Holy cow.
Are there other apps, either for the iPad or even Android platform, that you think, oh, I'd really like to be part of this, but you haven't quite figured out how to port Photopedia into yet?
Where we want to push our contents? There are some other, I will not get into details. I'm discussing with many of these people, but it can be, the mobile world is, they desperately need some visual contents. And, think about all the mobile operators. And, they need it, for instance, with what we have for the moment for that travel property. They come to us all the time. We don't go too fast.
They'll come to you.
What I learned from all my years at Next and Apple is remain focused.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, if you are focused, you get successful. So first, I really want to own our space.
Yes.
And then I can move on to the different direction, extended distribution, and this kind of stuff.
So let me ask you a little bit about Steve. Of course, the world really mourned his passing. Have you read Walter Isaacson's book yet? Or
yeah.
What do you think?
It's very hard for me because I was extremely close to Steve, and at some point, even when I was at Next, since I never asked for a green card, I had some other thing to think about. After 6 years, I had to come back during 1 year here to wait until I can get a visa again to go back to the United States. So during that year, when I was going to the United States, I was living at Steve's house.
Wow.
So, in a way, I was one of these person who was in, the right bucket.
Yeah.
So sometimes I find, and so for me, I like him. He's a nice guy.
It was a different experience for you. He loved you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so he was very charming, I'm sure, and
absolutely,
and warm.
Sometimes he can be. Steve is Steve. And when he has something to tell you, he doesn't hesitate. But at the same time, since I was close to him, it doesn't hurt.
You didn't see the dark side.
No, dark side, it's hard to say. Okay, maybe there was some dark side. I could see how it could be difficult, especially working in a company, because, and in a way, it was not difficult directly for me, but it was he was going to every level and he was looking at everything. And when he was seeing something that was not good, he was just, you are doing a very bad job.
Right.
And in a way, the guy was not necessarily responsible, but after that he was devastated.
Right.
And Steve, he just left, but you still have to deal with all these people afterwards.
Right.
So as Steve is a management challenge because he's creating lots of noise.
Trouble.
Yeah.
But a genius.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you'll miss him, and
Absolutely.
we all will. But we have these wonderful platforms to thank him for and to thank you for, because there's a lot of Next still in the Macintosh and in the iPhone too, I guess.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's the same lineage. It's when you were there from the very beginning, and lots of people who are at Apple today were the original Next people. But basically, it's most of the people who are the top people at Apple. I mean, there are some exceptions. Some people, Jonathan Ive and some other. Eddie Q, who is a really nice guy.
Right.
And but they are the exception.
Right. So people have that vision in their head. Yeah. And I often thought, in fact, the day I saw the iPad in January 2010, I guess it was, I said, this is what Steve, I think, always wanted to make. That was kind of that's the computer for the rest of us, really.
Well, Steve Wozniak had said that was the original vision. It just took however many years.
Technology didn't catch up.
For the technology to catch up with the imagination.
So from the very beginning, after that, the evolution. I mean, this technology, touch and all of that, it was at Apple since quite a long time. In fact.
Really?
But Steve never knew. I mean, first, it was not his focus at that time. So, early on, it was the iPod time, and he didn't want to move out of the iPod. Even the iPod itself, he didn't want to introduce video, all this kind of stuff that others had inside the iPod until he 100% owned, the music space, including selling music and everything. So, when he got 70%. He started to say, okay, we can add some.
But you just referred to it earlier. That was very key, is focus. He says saying no to 1,000 things is a big part of the job.
That's the most important thing. And that's a danger, especially in a company like Apple, because they have lots of very bright people. Very bright people have, lots of ideas. And, before with Steve, he was deciding we do this thing, and usually it was a handful and even less than 2 or 3.
Right.
And after that, there was no questioning for anybody. After that, all the energies of everybody was just refocusing on that. So you get all the brains of all these people, focusing on that. Now it will be much harder because nobody...
you need a king of France. You need the roi.
Nobody will be able to take this. I mean, I fear that this can end in endless discussion, as usual in all these big companies.
Right.
And in a way, it's just energy that is wasted.
Right.
How long does it take for something like Japan, which is your latest Photopedia app, from conception to giving it to the App Store?
So this case was an interesting one because, in a way, we never do something with that other people will ask us, or usually we want to do something, and after that we are starting to market it, to distribute it, and everything. In this case, it was a bit special because it's Akuodo, which is a #2 ad agency in Japan. They came to us and they say, we have a client, Narita Airport, who would like to deliver a message to all the world, blah, blah, blah. And they wanted to do it in 1 month. And so Akuodo said, we looked at, nobody can do that, but maybe you can do. You can do it. And I said, that's interesting. So I didn't know if we had enough content. So I said, okay, we will do it. And so in less than 6 weeks, in this case, this was on the App Store and sold.
How many photos are in your database now?
At this point, we have over 1 million pictures, but we are not measuring us. The number is not that big.
It seems big.
It depends, because if you look at people like Flickr, all these people,
it's much larger.
you know, it's billions of photos. Right. And well, our job in a way is exactly the contrary. So we are able to screen with the community and you know our different filters, maybe hundreds of millions of pictures, but we keep only very few.
Right.
And make a test by yourself. Try to find a picture on a Flickr or Google image, and so you do a query. Try to find one where the quality is good enough and which is relevant for your query. It will be at most 1 out of 100.
Mm-hmm.
So we found the way, our curation tool and helped by the community. We have a community of curators. It's both photographers and curators. But we have everything in place to make sure that we keep only the very high quality pictures with the right metadata.
You're doing a good job, because when I go through the magazine, if you go to photopedia.com, there's a magazine, and every single subject, every image, beautiful, stunning, they grab you. So you're doing it. And you say an interesting thing, metadata is important too, because you have to find these, right? You have to collate, you have to, some way to know what this is.
You have to know what this is, and you know, for instance, when it comes from the community, I mean, if you know, some people are posting pictures.
Flickr tags are pretty much useless.
Yeah, it's pretty much useless. But what happens, and what is very common for the inexperienced people who are coming to our community, they just come back from vacation, let's say from Italy, and they have 100 pictures, and they put everything, you know, under Italy.
Right.
So immediately you get the rest of the community getting to them. Okay. So, you know, this picture, it's interesting. It's a good picture, but, you know, does it deserve to be in Italy? We do not know. It's a fountain in some city. Which fountain, which city? If you can tell us what it is, and so this is the work of the community, okay, ultimately it will maybe become number one for this fountain, number one for this city, and maybe ultimately become number one for Italy.
But it takes, you have to get there. So you have, is it like Wikipedia that you have editors, volunteer editors like Wikipedia?
Yeah.
That's the community.
Yeah, that's the community.
Yeah.
So after that, it's a pyramid. That is, we have, you know, the community, and so in a way, lots of contributors, and you know, less real curators who are really, so it's like, you know, Wikipedia today, it's people who are really doing the core work.
It's a small number.
It's a small number, 500 in the beginning, 1,500 at this point, or something like that. And after that, at the very top, we keep in our staff a few people who are, you know, screening, but at the top of the pyramid. And we have 2 or 3 people. We have 3 people all together on the contents, but you know, they have various tasks, so they don't even spend all their time. So this is already filtered. That's the key.
Well, for example, you've got a nice picture here. I'm again looking at the Japan app. The photographer who took it is credited. We have a nice excerpt that is pulled directly from Wikipedia and says
In this case, it's Wikipedia. Yeah. And one thing that is really nice with Wikipedia is that all our tagging system is based on Wikipedia. And which means that when you say Italy, in a way, it's Italy Wikipedia article. What is critical for that is that it is giving us automated translation.
So you're in every language that Wikipedia.
So after that, we have it. We use all the cross-reference inside Wikipedia to make sure that it's Italy, you know, in Japanese, in Chinese, and blah blah blah. So when we localize our application, there is a first step, which is, you know, and basically it's 80 to 90% of what we do in terms of localization, which is totally automated.
That's great.
And after that, we have, it's always the same. To scale, you have to find a solution so that what you have to do manually or by paying people is reduced to the minimum.
Small as possible. Yeah. So great to meet you, Jean-Marie. Thank you
Same
so
for
much
me.
for joining us. I love Photopedia.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for giving us something to talk about regularly on our iPad shows.
Gorgeous images and a brilliant idea, and I think a real contribution to all of us. So thank you so much for visiting
And
us.
thank you for your stories about Steve Jobs, too.
Okay.
Sounds like he was a pretty great guy.
Yeah, and I mean, we worked like 15 to even more than 15 years together. So.
Wow, that's amazing. Jean-Marie Hulot, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
You're watching Le Web live from Paris 2011. Wow, that was so great to get to talk
Wasn't
to him.
it?
What a treat. I was looking forward to that. believe it or not,
I
his
didn't realize
people approached
they were
us.
as close as they were.
Yeah. And his people, well, you know, we were at dinner, and he was sitting at the next table over, and I think it was Phil Lieben of Evernote says, you know who that is? That's Jean-Marie Hulot. And he told me the whole story, and I said, wow. And then this morning, I got an email from his people saying, want to talk to him? And I said, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we've got lots more people still to come. We're going to talk to some Russian bloggers in a little bit about the status of Russia in the entrepreneurial world. Alexia Tsotsis from TechCrunch will join us. But next, I'm very excited about our next guest. So let me do a start, and we'll do it. Live from Paris, France, this is Le Web 2011, our special Twit coverage. I'm Leo Laporte.
I'm Sarah Lane.
And from Kiva.org, Matt Flannery, a man who's making a very big difference in the world. Matt, so good to see you.
Hi, Matt. Welcome.
How long has Kiva been around?
We started Kiva in 2004 in Uganda.
Is it that long,
actually.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm an old man now. It's getting,
Wow.
Yeah.
And so tell me a little bit about yourself and how you came up with this idea.
Okay, well, I'm a software developer. I went to Stanford. My first job out of college, I was working at TiVo, helping people pause live TV.
Good job, by the way.
Yeah.
You did an excellent job.
Thanks. A great invention that will not be forgotten in history.
Right.
And so I love doing that, but I got excited about the microfinance movement. I saw this famous Nobel Prize-winning economist speak at Stanford at night one night. His name is Professor Yunus, and he inspired me.
Yunus is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing guy. Nobel Prize winner.
It was life-changing. Changed my life. And after that, I worked in Uganda for a while. Took a break from my software developing job, and got really inspired by the businesses people were starting there. And I'm an internet guy. Always wanted to start my own startup, so I figured out a way to connect their businesses to the U.S. and enable a two-way financial transaction. So essentially on Kiva, you can lend to entrepreneurs in
tell us
Uganda.
what micro lending is.
Yeah, micro lending is the practice of lending and giving fair credit to those people at the bottom of the pyramid to help them start businesses, really. And so we do that now
You're
in
talking about
60
something
countries.
like $25 that could actually be extremely impactful.
Yeah, little amounts go a long way. And
What are
especially,
the typical loans?
Yeah, a typical loan on Kiva is actually about $400 now, and we work all over Anglophone Africa, all over Central and South America, and Southeast Asia as well. And you can lend the small amount of money to somebody to help them start or grow a business, and they typically pay back over the course of a year. And our repayment rate's about 98, 99%.
Wow.
That's really neat. And to
It's
give you
cool.
some idea of the scale of this now, and this is where it's great because, Eunice was doing, a lot of stuff, but it was small scale. You brought it to the internet. Now you've got 1 million, you've got 4,000 lenders joined this week, 14,000 loans made this week, over $1 million lent this week.
This week, yeah. It's ridiculous. It's growing very fast. Yeah.
Do you get a sense, and by the way, kiva.org, kiva.org.
Kiva.org.
You
Thanks
can
for saying
actually
that.
buy a Kiva gift card, which would be a really good holiday gift.
Hey,
I think.
you're doing the selling for me. I don't have to do it myself.
No,
That's
I
really
just
nice.
think that
Yeah.
that would be such a great holiday gift.
Well, it's
You
good if you're
also-
lazy, too. You can do it December 24th. You can
Right.
still buy it.
Right.
And it
And you
works.
can read stories of
Yeah.
who is raising money. I mean, it's a lot of people will say, "Oh, I know this format. It's like Kickstarter."
Yep.
You know, Kickstarter definitely takes from this format as well.
Yeah, no, Kickstarter has been a big inspiration to us. They're younger than us and definitely injected a lot of enthusiasm and awareness around crowdfunding, which has helped us a lot, too.
You were the first, but there's a lot of other people doing this now.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
has become,
Yeah,
you
it's
started
it's
you started a
space.
thing.
Yeah, it's an honest part of the industry.
So how
now.
do you make money so it is a business, or is it a nonprofit?
We're a nonprofit,
Okay.
but we're a nonprofit business, if you want to take it that way. We ask our users for voluntary donations.
To keep it going.
After they lend money. And we typically get $5 to $7 per user per year. And that's keeping us in the lights on, essentially.
And give us an idea of what these loans go to.
Yeah, the loans go to anything for someone starting a basket weaving business, somebody selling clothes, somebody with a beekeeper in Ghana, all sorts of retail shops all over the world. That's very common. We have taxi drivers in Central and South America and Eastern Europe. We even work in the USA now, so we work in Louisiana, Texas, Detroit, New York, and San Francisco. And in the U.S., we have a lot of small stores and construction businesses and all sorts of things. Yeah.
And a 98% repayment rate. But I bet a lot of that money doesn't come out. It goes back into the cycle, doesn't it?
That's why you're seeing $1 million per week being lent now, because the money is being recycled. So almost nobody withdraws the money.
Why
and
should
so
you?
they just put it in and they relend it and relend it and relend it.
All the power of that.
Yeah, no one's looking to make money. It's just
Amplify.
this big community of people helping each other.
That's so
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah.
Must make you feel very good.
I'm a lucky guy. You know, I get to
Yeah.
travel the world and I get to meet with the best people all over the world.
Is that how you figure out who is a really good candidate for Kiva? Is just by traveling to places, talking to the community?
Yeah.
Do they find you? I mean, I'm sure in a lot of
Yeah.
cases there's not even internet to be able to ping you in any way.
That's a good question. Our number one question on the website is, can I get a loan? So we're getting this outpouring of people, and I get letters. So I just recently got a letter from rural India from a fisherwoman on the banks of the river who wanted a loan from my website. She heard about it, and then she writes a letter. So it's happening all over the world. The way we currently get the borrowers on the site is they go to a local organization that does lending for poor people. So whether that be in Rwanda or Nicaragua, we have these partners all over the world in 60 countries that actually put the people on the website and disperse the money to them.
So what's the turnover as far as how long the borrowing process lasts, and then what is a typical borrowing beginning to end cycle?
They were quite short, and we're trying to lengthen it, but typically a borrower borrows money for about 10 months, and it's about $400, and they repay it back about 99% of the time.
Well, you must hear some really amazing success stories.
Yeah, and I get to meet the people, and it keeps me happy. Because people love talking about business, and people aren't depressed. So the poorest people on earth are happy, and they're excited about their business, and they're optimistic, and they talk about dreams and their strategy first and foremost over in terms of instead of talking about poverty. And so that's really uplifting. I can't complain. I never complain.
One of the things that's really interesting to me is that often this is a way for women to get out of poverty. What percentage of your loans go to women entrepreneurs?
That's a great point. The microfinance movement is led by women, and 80% of our borrowers on our website is women.
80%?
80, yeah. And women are typically the holder of the finances in a family. And so they're typically what I would call the CFO, the chief financial officer of their family. In just about every country we work in, it's common.
So you're doing more than just bringing people out of poverty. You're actually raising equality for women around the world by empowering them.
Yeah, it's a whole other story. Which is a women's rights, civil rights story around microcredit, and really elevating and empowering women to take more control over their life in every country.
I think that's
wonderful.
huge. Yeah, and I don't know if people really realize that's
it's kind of the
what's
subplot
really going
of what we
on
do.
here.
Yeah.
So give us you must have one or two favorite tales.
I was just in Peru, so that's more recently on my mind. And we visited women outside of Lima in the slums. And so if you visit those places, it's kind of, at first, one of the most depressing sights you can see. Big vacant hills, no vegetation, arid landscape, people living on less than $1 a day, and without access to running water and access to vegetation. So it's really a hard place to live. And in that place, a lot of our borrowers are doing stuff in the dumps and the landfills. And we just visited a woman who runs a recycling center. And with her Kiva loans, she was able to just buy and sell rebar, metal, and provide income for her family and also keep her land, because these people are being pushed out of their land by the mining industry coming over. But it's a story of women's empowerment and land rights as well, because she had access to cash, which she could then use to give somebody, quick cash and then resell scrap metal to someone that comes once a month. So it's just little stories of little accomplishments and people being able to keep their houses and grow their families. Not wild success, not massive rags to riches, people getting rich, but it's people standing up for themselves.
I wouldn't want it to be that, really.
Yeah.
What you really want, I think, is just an increase in well-being and health and prosperity and happiness that incrementally and aggregates into a changed world. And that's really what you're doing.
Yeah, it's about access to opportunity and being able to pursue your dreams and make your way on this planet. And a lot of people don't have control, but it's giving back a little control.
It's huge.
Are you content to have Kiva run the way that it is, obviously very successfully? Do you have bigger plans for the next
Yeah.
year, the next 5 years?
Yeah, I'm just excited. We're growing as the world grows and the digital technology expands. So one thing I've noticed is that the bottom 3 billion people on this earth are coming online for the first time, and it's super, super exciting. You can access them, and they can have their own voice in a global digital village, really online. So last week, we launched a mobile lending pilot in Kenya for the first time. So
Great.
you can lend money on our website to someone's mobile phone in Kenya. They get the money rather instantly, directly on their phone, because mobile
Which
payments.
is huge, because in
Yeah.
many places, people have mobile phones. They're on the internet that way, but that's
Yep,
it.
it's spreading much faster than the internet, and it's integrated with mobile payments in Africa, much more so than in France, much more so than in the USA. So it's funny that their technology is sort of ahead of ours over there. We're able to integrate with that. We just launched it last week on a subdomain, so you won't find it if you hear me talk about this, but it's at this subdomain called zip.kiva.org, ZIP, and it's a much riskier experimental website right now that we're not quite sure how the repayment rate will be, since we're lending to people directly through the internet without a local loan officer to collect the money. These people just have to text the money back to the website.
But you're willing to give it a shot.
We're trying, you know.
Yeah.
Kiva's very experimental. We're always pushing the boundary, and so we're not afraid to fail once in a while.
What's that URL again if people want to take a little more chance?
It's you can sign up for the beta. It's at zip.kiva.org, zip.kiva.org, and we're just announcing it at Loeb for the first time.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I want to just thank you for the huge difference you're making.
Oh,
in the
thanks for
world.
caring about this. Thanks for including me in the conference,
we're
and
glad
thanks for
to.
including me in your show. It's awesome.
iBookery in our chat room said, here's one guy who sleeps well at night.
I actually don't sleep well at night. I wish
another story.
Maybe I should
You have
sleep
too much
well
jet
at night.
lag.
Too much
Matt
insomnia,
Flannery,
too much
thank you
stress.
so much.
Yeah.
KIVA.org.
All right,
And,
guys.
what a great
Yeah.
holiday gift, one of those Kiva gift cards.
Yeah, buy a
would be.
Kiva gift card.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's so great. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, guys.
Nice
Thanks,
to meet
Matt.
you.
Enjoy.
Nice to
Bye-bye.
We're
meet
live
you.
from Loeb 2011. More great entrepreneurs and great stories like that coming up. That was really fun. Yeah.
You're smooth too. You're obviously
Well,
used to this.
You must be doing a lot of interviews, yeah. We gotta get
No?
more interviews for you then.
I want you to hold the mic.
You should be on Today's Show. Well, he's not on. He can.
know, but they
If you
want-
talk, hold the mic because they can't hear you. Yeah, you should be on the. You should be on every.
Okay.
We got to get you a good
Yeah.
publicist.
Let me know.
Seriously, you
Yeah.
should be on every
Can I-
morning show.
Can I write
this-
you up? Can I write you about that?
Yes, this year,
Okay.
this month, you should be on every morning show in the U.S. because you could quadruple the number of participants.
And I'm not sleeping anyway, so I'll be up.
And since you're not sleeping,
Yeah.
you're already up at that hour. All right, Matt. Yeah,
All right,
we
see you
won't
then.
keep you. I'm sure you're exhausted, but thank you.
No, I'm doing good.
Good.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Matt.
Bye-bye.
Wow, isn't that a nice story? I
It
I
really
just
is.
love that.
You know, you can spend a lot of time reading these. If you just go to kiva.org and scroll down just a tiny bit, you can read about all of the different loans that are either success stories, they're done, or they're in process, or people who are soliciting loans. And it's the kind of thing where you read it and you say, nobody should even want this money back. But the fact that you can get it back.
Most of the time, they never take it back, though. They
Right.
just reinvest it.
Sure, but that's
So what-
part of the
Yeah,
part of the
so
incentive.
think of it this way: take $100 that you'd spend to go out, to a party or something,
Mhm.
and put it into Kiva. You just you say that's it, and then just keep it in the recycling, and think of all that can do over the months and years that's going to be in the environment. I mean, I think it's better than giving to charity in some ways because you're empowering somebody and you're helping
And the
them
money
lift up,
keeps
and the money
going.
keeps going.
Yeah,
It never really gets spent. And I think that's really cool. I think it's kind of magic.
I didn't realize Kiva was as old as 2004.
I was shocked. Yeah.
I guess it just took a while for word to get out.
Yeah.
But that 2004
I
is
follow
a long time ago.
Mohammed Yunus on Google Plus. He's very active on Google Plus.
Mhm.
The guy who came up with this. It was in Bangladesh that he started the first little bank doing these microloans. In 2006, he did win the Nobel Peace Prize for doing that. And he's a really interesting fellow to watch and follow.
It'll also be interesting to see what Matt was telling us about the mobile payment experiment, zip.kiva.org.
Yeah.
Them saying, well, we're not sure how much of the repayment is
Right.
actually going to work, but I have a feeling that they'll be pleasantly surprised.
I should have asked him. I'm not sure what the infrastructure is. I would gather, because most of these people don't have internet access, that what's really happening is it's going to a small financial institution in the area that then doles it out or something like that. But I don't, I should have asked. And we should have found out.
Right.
So Loic never showed up.
He's a busy man. He's a
What
busy
happened
man.
with that? Oh, so it's Sean Parker's fault. That's what happened. Loic had to stay on the stage because Sean Parker decided that he was busy.
Alexia is running
Was
that
he partying?
interview.
Did he ever show up?
Yeah.
Alexia interviewed Sean Parker?
Yeah.
Wow.
She
Just now?
She DM'd me on Twitter. What should I ask Sean Parker?
Oh,
Like,
I don't know.
I
could think about 100 things.
It's like,
It's possible that once that's done, that Loic will come over. And well, Alexia is scheduled to. Also coming up in a little bit, Denis Dovgopoli and Daria Bakutina.
that's very good.
They are Russian bloggers. And Daria came up and said, can I interview you? And I said, only if I can interview you first.
Oh yeah, she emailed us.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
Didn't she?
Yeah, she's
And we said, please come by.
Yeah, I would love to have her on. And Alexia Tsotsis is scheduled to after we can interview her about interviewing Sean Parker.
Perfect.
That's as close as we're going to get. Matt left his badge here, by the way, so he will be back.
Hopefully.
Just so you know. So when he comes back, is that Daria?
There's Daria.
Come on over, Tovarish.
Our producer Eileen
It's okay
is.
if people walk in front of the camera. We
We-
you know, it was
we're
very
with a
early
very
on.
professional French
That's
crew.
the problem. They're too professional.
And they don't
They
understand.
We're not.
They don't
Very
understand
early on,
why
and
we're so
anybody who
casual.
has been watching Twit for some time knows that from day one on Twit, I told Colleen, because she was always crawling on the floor, I said, get up, walk in front of the camera. It's okay. It
We
just
do that to
means
this day
we
with our
still
new
do it,
fancy
and it's
studio.
quite all right.
You want to walk behind us? Walk behind us.
Please walk behind us or in front of us. I don't care. So I'm going to see if my pronunciation is as impressive to them as it was to you.
I think they'll say yes either way.
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Hello.
So welcome, Daria Batukinta.
Thanks,
Batuktina. See, I got to get it right.
Hello,
And is it Denis Dovgopoli? Close? Wow.
You have a non-Russian speaker who can pronounce it.
Well, that's because I often do Russian accent. Говорит Москва.
This is one of his things.
So, so is it Denis or Denis? How do you like it to be
Denis.
called? Denis. You guys are from Moscow? Moskva?
I'm from Ukraine, Kiev,
Ukraine. Okay, Kiev.
And I'm from Moscow, but originally I'm staying right now in Czech Republic.
Oh, how fun. And you're bloggers. Daria, you're a blogger.
Daria is blogger, but I'm blogging about my business.
Ah, so you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Ah.
And I'm communication and PR consultant.
Oh, good. So I thought it'd be fun. You asked if you could talk to us, and I said okay. But I thought it'd be fun to talk to you about the state of entrepreneurialism in Russia, because of course I know the economy was very disrupted when the Soviet Union, when Glasnost happened, everything changed, and for a while it was very difficult. Has the economy gotten easier, and is it mature enough now that you can actually have entrepreneurialism?
I think Denis will start, and I will add to him because he has much larger experience
He's an
than me.
entrepreneur.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
No, I'm focusing on Ukraine, but if you want to know...
Well, you can talk
more-
about Ukraine too. Similar story there. Although the Ukraine has always been much more successful economically, hasn't it? You have
I don't
wheat,
think
you
so,
have-
but,
no?
but okay, I'm involved in technology business.
Okay.
And I'm trying to build community in Ukraine consisting of entrepreneurs, consultants, VCs, angels, and so on. We started in 2005 from Silicon Valley, and now we have a really huge community. We're trying to do it by providing international experience for our community from Silicon Valley, Russia, Europe, and so on. And here is a lot of Russians and Ukrainians in the
No kidding.
conference.
That's great.
About 35 persons. From
35%?
Yes,
You're kidding.
persons.
Oh, 35 people.
Yes. no, no.
I was going to say, oh, it's a big percentage.
And if you will ask about the business in general, like if you will look at the speakers list, there is Andrei Andreev, who was a founder of some social network in Russia. Now he's a founder of Badu. So Evernote, quite well-known brand,
Phil
was
is-
also
a lot of
founded one of
Russians,
Russian,
yep,
yeah.
yep.
And also Cut the Rope, the most famous
We love
game.
Cut the
yes.
Rope.
We've invited them here.
Everybody loves it.
They sent me an email saying, "Can we
this
come
is this is the point to talk about. Like right now, the Russian market is the most fast-growing market in Europe, and international players like VCs are coming there, and there are a lot of examples like Astravok and others which get fundraised from international VCs.
What is Astravok?
Astravok, it's an online travel agency which is helping people to book hotels on a in the world, and it's like a Russian-friendly system. So they looking to the most best results which they can get. Actually, Denis also know quite a lot about tourism because he has a startup in this field. Maybe you will.
Okay, we are trying to build a Russian-friendly ecosystem in Europe for Russian tourists, because a lot of Russians don't know any foreign languages, and it's really too hard to travel over Europe.
In a way, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of
a lot of opportunities in Russian market, and as what people used to say is it's not so competitive comparing with the Silicon Valley. Plus, it's much more easy to find IT specialists there who can build a very, very good product.
We, in fact, in the U.S. outsource to Russia all the time, and so former Soviet Union countries all the time, because they're very well-trained engineers, and they're very cheap.
Yeah, because for
not so cheap, but Russian and Ukrainian software developers are much smarter than guys from Asia, and they can do extreme programming and to deliver new version of products as soon as possible. It's really important.
Right.
One of such kind of examples, Questly, last year at LevUp, the guy came from Siberia just to present his working prototype and to find investor here. And the investor was really quite surprised about the level of the product which they created, like the 6 people, really good specialists. Really, they were learning by themselves on their own experience, So I think it's quite clear that the Russian market is very potential, has great potential, and also based on source.
And by the way, the winner of the LevUp 2008 competition was originally from Ukraine. It's a company. Vyudl with face recognition technology, and after they raised round from Qualcomm, Best Buy, and BlackBerry Ventures for $10 million, and it's really big success for Ukrainian entrepreneurs.
Are there certain business models or even startups that would work well somewhere like Russia? And there's so many people who live in Russia, and obviously a lot of them are online now. That wouldn't necessarily work in other places in the world? Is it unique does it have certain unique business models?
From my point of view, there is nothing specific in the Russian market. It just needs quite a lot of services, and the market is quite empty in these cases. For example, e-commerce project will have great success there.
Because they need...
They just need
it.
Yeah, there is nothing like...
No, actually... we have some differences in former Soviet Union countries. For example, if you are talking about e-commerce, the most of payment, about 99%, is a cash on delivery. It's not by credit cards, it's just cash on delivery.
But those things are business specific, I think. I mean, those models which are working, there are some cases like something which can work in America will not work in Russia, for example, like this kind of project which are bringing fundraising from a lot of people, crowdfunding. It will not work in Russia, So it depends, of course. Mostly, what I would say and what we see actually on the market, the most successful things are those things which are just made based on demand. If people just need something and you are working in this field like IT or software, hardware or something, then you will just bring it because you know about it. It's like, for example, if people are working in the field of supporting IT and freelancers in this sphere, and they see that those people need some kind of forms to complete their orders, which are quite a lot. They're just creating a startup regarding this, and they're succeeding.
That's exciting. Is there government support at all for any of this, or is it all just grassroots, populace?
It's two different story.
About Ukraine and Russia,
okay,
yeah, totally
you can
different.
talk about Russia, and I will add about Ukraine.
So about Russia, I would say yes, there is a support, and there are plenty of programs. And if you're interested, it's quite easy to find. If you are a life science startup or clean tech or ICT startup, in each field you can find either accelerators or some funds which are based on government money, or some programs, anything, or like Skolkovo, for example, program, where you can get sources, you can get money and everything. But in general, you know, like to be able to get to such kind of programs and to fundraise there, you just really need to provide some kind of innovative thing and really need it for the market. And honestly, I would say that they are mostly interested in the local market investments, you know, that not like global. But there are also plenty of venture funds who are looking for international.
Sounds like Russia is a good climate for that. How about the Ukraine?
Yeah. In Ukraine, we're trying to build technology community out of government support.
Without government support?
Without, yes. And we want, I think government support is not so good in terms in Russian way, because too much government money, it's not good to entrepreneurship in general. You need to
a lot
acquire.
of people in the U.S. agree with you.
You need to
too.
acquire cash from customers or from investor with good business model, good idea, good team, and so on.
Yeah, that's one thing you get with an investor that you don't get from the government is mentorship and support and ideas. And that many entrepreneurs say is as important as the money, really.
Sure.
Sometimes even more.
And,
more important.
So in my point of view, the grants and the government money, it's really bad for startups, and we trying to build it out of government support. But new generation of investors and entrepreneurs trying to invite government structures to be involved in venture capital life in Ukraine, and we'll see.
Well, at least get out of the way, if nothing else. You know, don't over-regulate it. You know, one problem here in Europe is privacy regulations. There's a lot of government regulation that hinders development. Is it a little bit more open in the Ukraine? It's a problem there too.
It's a problem. It's a rule.
Yeah.
And you need to play with
you have to know the rules.
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you will have a huge tax and maybe some other licensing of some activities, it's really bad. But
you do have that too?
Yes.
Oh.
So some of type of activities need some licensing, and if you are in e-commerce, you need to answer some requirements, like you need to have an office, store, and so physical office and store, and it's not so good.
Right.
Well, did you want to interview Leo?
You can do that another time. We can, yeah, if you want, you can. And I guess if we were going to do that, do we have somebody? Okay. So, I mean, you can ask me questions now. I can get up and leave and let Sarah sit here all by herself.
No. Why don't you do it here? I had the Croatian blogger interview me yesterday, and you took a little walk.
That's true.
And I will get some more water.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And you can move over, Daria, if you want. And
I feel okay here.
You feel? Oh, she wants to keep her distance. Okay, that's fine. I understand. Just kidding. So, tell me about your blog. What is it?
Okay, then in general, my blog is focused on web marketing, online business, startups, innovations, and actually it's kind of bridge between Europe and Russia, because I'm involved in several events, so over the Europe and also in Russia, and I'm trying to build some kind of connection between these two places, and also to explain, for example, not so far for Russians, I was trying to explain what kind of benefits they can get from such kind of conference like LevWeb. They didn't know even that LevWeb is existing, because it's a really professional event. Not so many people know that what kind of useful things could be here, and my business was to explain them actually based on interviews or based on some facts to present what's the point about.
Right. Do you think there'll be more 35 Russians? That's or 35. What do Slavs? What do I call you? If it's Russians and Ukrainians, what do we? Russian and Ukrainian.
Slavic
people.
Slavic people. Yeah, I would say like right now is much more of them. I think watching online event, because yesterday we were checking up hashtags and we saw quite a lot of people who were
So they're watching the video.
commenting. Yeah, they were
That's
commenting
excellent.
really video. They were watching it and very interesting what's happening here, even they are not here. So
I think
it
it's
was
great
very
that
interesting.
LeWeb does that. You don't have to. It's expensive to come here. It's expensive to attend, but you can watch the video for free and get much of that value. Although the real value is walking around and talking to people and meeting people.
One more idea, maybe it could be even much more better. For example, for those people who are not attending but watching online. Sorry?
What would you like?
Sit down here. Okay.
Slide down here.
Yeah, okay. Closer. Okay.
It's hard for them to get a shot, so we're just going to reorganize a little bit.
Okay.
There we go.
So one more idea. We were talking yesterday just with guys, and one more idea, like those people who are watching LevWeb online, okay, they're not physically here, but they are also participants. They're interested in it. Maybe to give them access to Presdo, you know, to have a possibility to communicate with those people who are here.
That's a good idea.
For some small amount of money,
right.
Which means that they are also like participants and they can benefit
yeah.
from the connection with people. Anyway, it's online or offline, it doesn't matter, but we are living in some... Avinash Kaushik not so far said, like, we are living in non-line world right now because
Right.
there is no
I should explain
difference.
that LeWeb uses a system called Presdo that lets attendees privately message each other and communicate with each other, set up appointments and so forth. And it's actually a very big part of LeWeb because before you go, you see who's going to be there and you use Presdo to say, I want to get together with you. And so if you gave them access to that, you gave them the video, maybe they'd get a lot of the experience of LeWeb. And my sense is, as much as Loic wants people to come here, he's also very much about getting people to start getting involved in startups and start growing the whole idea. So I think he probably would do that. So I'll tell him.
Yeah, it will be a great idea, I think, because
Yeah.
you will get much more audience than you have right now, which will be online and offline also.
Right, right. What else? What else is going on for you in the Ukraine or in Russia?
Just finished 2 big events in Russia.
Okay, the director has slid him over. Good. Now we're all comfortable. Everybody good? Okay. This is fine. This is good. This is what we do. We are teaching everybody to just relax and have fun. It's okay.
It's okay. Last week, I finished 2 events in Russia. First, it's iConvent, and a lot of VCs and entrepreneurs from United States were there.
Oh, good.
And
I think events are very important to get people together talking to each other.
And a few days ago, it was TechCrunch Moscow.
That's right.
Yes.
How did that go?
I was there.
We were not there, but based on things which our friends said to us, it's like it was interesting for communication, but not so exciting as the web, because people need kind of a very, very, very interesting interactions during the discussion panels. And as I understood, it was not so interactive, so exciting for them. But in general, from my point of view, it's really great when people are coming to Moscow and there is a possibility for those who can't attend LevWeb, for example, or any other event, to see those people in Moscow and to listen them and to communicate with them over the breaks, for example.
Right. I mean, I'm sure it's seen as at least some attention and some conversation, and that's good.
And a month ago, it was event called Investor Day Central and Eastern Europe in Kyiv, Ukraine. 2,000 participants was there, 150 startups and Startup Alley, and 300 investors and so on was from 35 countries was there.
That's great.
And
be honestly, this was the first time when I saw this high amount of VCs and investors on this square meter, because they were everywhere, but they were hidden.
yeah, and I don't know. I don't remember what I wanted to say.
No, this was one of the key events.
The question is, European and the United States citizen need no visa to visit Ukraine.
Oh, really?
Really, and it's
So
one
just show
of
up.
point of.
Come on in.
Sure, and
your passport's good here.
Yes.
And your
That's
money.
why it's worked.
And any Russians, European can attend it easily.
That's great.
Without any visa problem.
Yeah, that's good.
And what I would like to say, for example, while communicating here over these 3 days already, I got very interesting point that investors are becoming more and more interested in Russian projects. Actually, for them, they're not so. It's not so important from where the project is if it's
Right.
focused on the global market. But
Right.
in general, what we found out that it's really interesting for them to invest in Russian markets, and main motivation for them is because it's the most fast-growing market. And I was very curious how they actually deciding to do that.
Internet market in Russia, it's biggest in Europe.
Interesting. So, and what is
It's
internet
number
penetration?
one.
Is it very good? Most people have high speed?
It's not very good, but
it's growing.
It's growing.
It's growing.
Now it's in numbers much more than...
It's growing because of small cities, because before the internet penetration was over like big cities like Moscow, St. Petersburg, Novosibirsk, Ekaterinburg, and so on. And then now there is a possibility for people in the countryside also to get to internet and to have access and also to see what's happening around. But depends.
And actually, internet business in Ukraine and in Russia divided by two directions. First, it's local entrepreneurs which are trying to go to local markets, and second is a small part of those entrepreneurs which are trying to go global. And it's two different ways to build business.
It is very different, yeah.
And actually, investors divided by two investors. One of them looking for local opportunities, and second part is looking for global opportunities.
And that's why we would like to make also as much as possible such kind of events like Investors Day, like, for example, which was in Ukraine, which will let those people to come there and to see a Russian ecosystem, so startup ecosystem, to be able to understand that it's possible also to invest and to find partners. And some of them will be announced soon, also one of them in Moscow. So I think that it will be really, really great. And I think the growth will be also visible, and it is visible.
Well, we're glad you were here at LeWeb, and we're glad we could talk to you. It's I wish you luck, and maybe next year we'll come to Moscow or Kiev. That would be fun. I would like to do that.
That's for
Denise,
sure.
Denise Dovgopoli,
Yeah.
I got it, Dovgopoli, and Daria
Batukhtina.
Baktuktina. Thank you so
From
much
Russia.
for coming by. Really
Thank you very
appreciate it.
much.
Nice to meet you. We are at LeWeb 2011 and meeting a very global group of people who are doing amazing things online and in startups. Most of them are online, but apps are huge. And in fact, I think the biggest startup in Russia is Zepto Labs, which does that cut the rope. In fact, we were hoping to talk
Bigger
to
than
Misha.
Badu?
Well, Badu is here, but he is Russian. I don't know if Badu... No, not
No.
Baidu. Badu. Badu is a dating site. Okay, now, everybody must reposition exactly, and then I'm going to do the
Look who I
startup.
found.
I know, and get ready, folks, because
You gonna grill me?
she's a pistol. Welcome back to LeWeb 2011, Leo Laporte.
Sarah Lane.
And we are...
Day 3.
We are wrapping up almost day 3 of our coverage of LeWeb. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know it's very early in the morning for our U.S. viewers.
Or very late at night, depending on...
Your sleep habits,
Right.
I guess. But we are glad you could be here. And, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we'll make cut-downs of all of the stuff that we do here so you can watch it on the Twit Specials feed. So if there is something that particularly interests you, we will be making that available. And we did talk to tons of very good people from...
It's gone by so quickly.
It has. We had Kevin Rose, Om Malik, George Whitesides of Virgin Galactic. They want to get you in space. We had Cedric Ingram from the local Plein Écran, which is a tech television show here in Paris. Patrick Beja, the blogger. We talked to Alexander Leung of SoundCloud, which is a huge success out of Berlin. Uber's Travis Kalanick.
The Scobalizer.
The Scobalizer. Leah Busky of TaskRabbit. She was a local girl. Bill Gross of Idea Lab. That was a lot of fun to talk to her. Jason Jacobs from Runkeeper. Ben Parr. Phil Lieben, the CEO of Evernote. Christian Reber of Wunderlist. Steve Jang, you got to talk to him from soundtracking.com, which I joined, and now I've got like 1,000 people waiting for me to do something
Well,
with it.
aren't you so popular?
Well, I don't even know what to do.
Well, you sound... Well, Leo.
I'll
pretty
soundtrack my life. But we saved the best for last.
That's right.
Alexia Tsotsis is here from TechCrunch.
Welcome.
Hi, Alexia.
I'm so impressed by you guys. You've been talking to people nonstop.
I didn't even
you're
do
running down that
today's
list.
list. I didn't even introduce today's stuff. That was just the last couple of days.
What were the highlights from today?
Well, we talked to Marco Tempest. He's the internet magician. He was fun. MG Siegler, you've heard of him, right? He was good, I thought. Loic was supposed to be here. He may show up at any moment. We don't know.
Yeah, he randomly came out and sat on stage during my talk.
Did
so
he?
It kind of just pops
He
up.
was jealous because you got to talk to Sean Parker.
Well, I think, yeah, it is his conference and all. He probably
And-
said,
and
we
you
should
might-
forgive this is going well.
Another
I
guy
want to
you
be in
might
the
have
photo op.
heard of, Gabe Rivera. He was here earlier. You don't like him.
MG Siegler's. Oh, we
MG
already mentioned him. Did we mention him?
Ziegler.
Anyway, it's great to have you. Alexia writes for TechCrunch. But you were also presenting, and you got, I think, maybe the most important interview of the day.
I was so surprised to get this interview. I was not prepared. And somebody told me, I was sitting there trying to memorize questions, because I've been notoriously terrible at interviews my entire career. I was sitting there trying to memorize questions, and I finally got fed up, because, my memory is not that good. And so I kind of sighed, and I was like, how does MG do this? Is it, like, does he have notes or something?
Yes,
and they're
he
like,
does,
he
on
has
his
an
iPad.
iPad. And so I go upstairs to the speaker room, and I'm like, who has an iPad? And Jeff Clavier gave me his iPad.
Oh, that's great.
I sent an email to myself with all of the notes that I had been taking, like trying to memorize the questions. And I got on stage, and I was like, I don't have to remember random things.
No, there is a utensil and a piece of paper that could have come in handy had you not found the iPad.
At an internet conference, it looks so cheesy and kind of really low tech to go out with your printer paper and it looks weird at a tech conference. So I did it a couple of times. Arrington told me, he's like, what are those? You have notes? What? And I just
he also
never
brings an iPad, by the way. Mike uses an iPad.
I never noticed.
Yeah.
I never noticed that.
Yeah.
Do you use an iPad?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I mean, when I interviewed Kevin Rose with Leo, didn't really
kinda
need
knew- we
anything
kinda
because
had
it's like you don't need notes for that. But
Questions ready for him.
for my interview yesterday, yeah, I had notes.
So Sean Parker, of course, is well known as he was memorialized by Justin Timberlake in the Facebook movie, The Social Network. Before that, he was Napster. He started Napster with Sean Fanning. And he's now an entrepreneur, right? But mostly a venture capitalist, I think.
Well, he's doing a startup called Airtime, which is like a chat roulette, but I think with more
clean, with
but
fewer
cleaner,
penises. Yeah.
with social features.
That'll sell.
It is a great idea if you can somehow
The
keep it from
circumcised
going
chat roulette.
to the groin.
Castrated chat roulette.
Castrated chat roulette.
And then he's also a partner at Founders Fund, which
Right.
which just raised $625 million.
That's a big fund.
Fourth fund. Founders Fund is amazing. Like they basically want to. They invested in Facebook via Peter Thiel,
yeah.
and their whole shtick is that we only invest in crazy, innovative things. And Facebook was at some point an innovative thing. It was so crazy.
Crazy, that Zuck. He's a college kid.
So now they're invested in Palantir, in Genentech. Let's see.
Genentech's not exactly a
Crazy.
crazy startup, but okay, I'll take it. So what did you ask him, and what did he say?
I asked him a lot. I feel like a lot of this conference, because it was in Europe, was centered around Spotify. Some of the biggest news, the fact that Spotify is doing what I'm considering a Pandora competitor, came out of Spotify.
He's been an advisor to them and an investor.
Yeah, he's an investor, and I asked him. The biggest thing I wanted to know was Spotify some way of like avenging his failures from Napster? Was it some way to like give it another?
Great question.
Yeah, he responded honestly. Yes.
What did he say?
Yes.
He said yes.
He said yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He said,
He
I'm
said
going to
yes.
show the
Well, I
music
act
industry.
like he asked me to marry him or something.
Oh, well, I
Or that I asked him to marry me. He said yes. But he said yes. And then he explained why. And, to an audience of, I think there was 1,600 people in that auditorium. It was packed.
Well, I think it's he said yes because it's kind of true. I mean,
Yeah, but I would have denied it.
If Spotify,
I would have denied it up and down. You don't want to look petty in front of a big audience. Yeah, I just wanted to screw the music industry because they screwed me. But it is honest, and I think that he's not screwing the music industry. What he's really done is saying, I was right, and you didn't like it, but we're back, and we're going to do it right this time, and we're going to do it better. And guess what? The music industry is buying it this time.
Well, if it's something that he believes in, that's how he should feel.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm older, and we're going to do it the civilized way.
Yes. We fought before. But
Now we're
that
putting gloves
Metallica
on.
never going to be on Spotify. I can tell you that right now. Take that, Lars Ulrich. No, he didn't say that, though.
No, he did
I'm
not.
putting words into Sean Parker's mouth. So, what else? Anything else of great revelations?
Shervin Pishavar was also on stage, and
Who's that?
he was the CEO of SGN Social Game Networks, which was also invested in by Founders Fund and Parker. And
He runs Menlo.
He runs the Ninja Fund at Menlo. So he just raised a $20 million fund because those are trending. Mike got one too. There's something about that 20 million number that engages
Nice
people.
little modest fund. What is the Ninja Fund?
Well, it's the,
It sounds
Ninja,
like stealth stuff.
or the Ninja Talent Fund. That's what he told me, but I mean, he might have just made that up.
Okay.
All right. But he does
Sounds
have
good.
Sounds amazing. He does have a $20 million fund out of Menlo, which is a more traditional VC firm in the sense that they don't really, do early stage kind of social startup investments. And so Shervin's been killing it. He got into Uber. He got into Shaker, which was a disrupt startup. He got into Fab, which just raised they just raised like 40 million. So he's kind of been leveraging his relationships because we all love Shervin, right? Like I'm a huge fan. All these entrepreneurs kind of look up to him. He's really about relationships. And he's been leveraging these relationships to get get in early into some deals that I consider really impressive. Getting into Uber is an accomplishment.
So, I think a lot of people who you're steeped in this whole thing and understand how it all works, but I think a lot of people watching
don't
really
don't
know what's
care.
early stage. Why is it some startups have VCs begging them to let them invest, and some startups pound the pavement for years and get no money? So let's talk a little bit about how this all works. So let's pretend I have a startup. And I realized that in order for me to do, I'll give you an example. Twit didn't need money because we didn't need servers, we didn't need cash. We kind of slowly grew. But if I were, say, Dig, I needed money for servers. I cannot grow without a cash infusion. So I need investors. So what's this process now that I go through? How does that start?
Well,
do I look for a small? Is it an angel investment that I want?
There's the right way to do this and there's the wrong way to do this.
Okay.
And I think personally, because there's a lot of different opinions, obviously. No one really knows how it works. It just
But you're an
happens.
observer, so you see this happen all the time.
Yes, and that's why I know what not to do. So I see the startup that thinks that TechCrunch coverage is everything, and it's not. And it's just such a side symptom of a greater cause, right?
Right.
So I see the startup that pitches bloggers and tries to go to Scoble or tries to go to MG or tries to go to someone who they consider influential to write about the startup and get press coverage, even though they don't have funding yet, they don't have any growth, they just have an idea. And
So that's the wrong thing.
that's
to
the
do.
wrong way. Cold emailing is the wrong way. These people don't read their emails.
Sending a safe with secret instructions inside it and some coasters.
Is the wrong. Sending cupcakes is the wrong way.
A lot of
Sending-
cupcakes.
Lots of cupcakes.
That seems to be popular.
I was going to start like a cupcake
We talked about
store.
that safe on our show.
I
so
give them a lot of plugs.
I think it was worth the money.
I think so.
But
Did MG write about them?
No, but he said, I got a safe.
He tweeted it.
And I said, yeah, we did too. And he went, oh.
but it had his name on it. The safe was a real. I saw that. I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
people
it's
are
like
so strange.
Fireproof.
Standing outside our office is in a surfer costume. With like
Really?
a big
People do
picture of
that?
Robin Waters. Like, yeah,
People do that?
somebody did that.
Wow.
A chicken costume we got. That's the wrong way. Don't dress in a chicken costume.
Okay. What should I do?
Who do you know in the industry? Like, do you have any?
Oh, really? It's connections? I hate to think
It's not
that.
connections. It's a vote. VC money is a vote. So if somebody invests in you, that means that they're voting for you in some way. They
They're
believe
voting
in
with
you.
their dollars.
They're voting with their dollars. And so to start that vote, you need like 1,000 sub votes,
Ah.
right?
So
So
you have
you
to have
start
the-
getting a vote. You start getting like,
Users' votes?
yes. So you don't have to know anyone in Silicon Valley if you've got 20 million uniques a month.
Right.
Right, or people already paying for your product. I mean, if you have people already paying for your product,
People will find you.
Yeah, people will find you.
So step one would be, after you have the idea, to at least implement it and get it on the App Store or get it on the web and get some users. Then maybe What's next?
Well,
Then do you go to TechCrunch?
The story of Silicon Valley is essentially a story of scale, which is why all this media stuff is really interesting, because media is a way of getting distribution.
Quick scale.
Yeah. So one of the reasons people approach TechCrunch first is because they think that getting that much distribution will help them scale.
Right.
Sometimes it just messes up their servers and their things down, and then they've got to fight fires and they can't focus on getting organic growth, right? So if you've got the technical, if you got everything implemented, you've got some traction, you've got some votes.
Poorly timed attention is worse than no attention.
Exactly.
So time it right.
Time it right. I mean, Jawbone Up had to relaunch.
Kind of a mistiming. We're all wearing our. Well, you're not. You had to send yours back.
Yeah, you had to send yours back.
That's a really good example. Now, this is an established company. Jawbone's a very well-known, very established, well-funded company.
Well, they're doing the right thing.
With an interesting product that a lot of people like. We've showed this before. Yeah, I know. They like it if I get a shot of this. This is a rubber bracelet that you wear that has Philippe Kahn's Motion X sensors inside.
Signed by Yves Bahar, former Apple.
It's kind of interesting, the mafia behind this product.
Jesus, I know. And it's still good.
And it broke. It's got 2 capacitors in it that are faulty.
There are a couple folks I know who had the same problems that I did. We've
Dead
talked
on
about
arrival.
this before.
And
so their second gen seems to be working fine. It's just the rest of us.
I never
still
had.
on-
This is our first one, but nevertheless, we all got emails today from Jawbone saying, "We're so sorry. If you want your money back, we will give you your money back. We are stopping production until we figure this out." That might have been perhaps scaling too fast. Yeah, because
I think it was rushing something out for the holiday.
I ordered it immediately, pre-ordered it, and I told John C. Dvorak, I said, by this time next year, it's going to be like the Livestrong bracelet. Everybody, and it's already happening among the technorati. We're all wearing these rubber things.
You keep motioning to me like I'm wearing something.
Well, you would be wearing one
I
if
would
yours
be if
hadn't
it
broken.
worked, but
What if
MG
they
was
sent
wearing
you
one.
one that worked?
Alexia's
Mine
working.
works.
Yeah,
Mine works.
I still have issues with.
I can't figure out how
I
to
have
set mine
issues
for
with how
French,
much
France time.
How much work you have to
Really?
do. with
Does yours
Jawbone.
know that you're in France?
You have to go through the app.
You have to go through
You
the
have to
iPhone
reset
app.
it.
No, you can't. There's no reset
Yes, yes, there is. There's a. Oh, come on, Leo.
button. I plugged it in, I synced it, and I
Look,
looked
do you want me to do
everywhere
it for
to tell
you?
it. It should see what time it is from my phone and go by that,
All
right?
Go to your app.
It doesn't.
Yes, it does.
All right, but
Mine
continue on with your story. How do I make it?
All right, how do you make it?
Just know somebody.
Know somebody.
No, that's bad because most people don't know
Get the
somebody.
crunch fund to invest in you. Find somebody and make a relationship, make a friendship. Be like, this is what
So
I'm doing.
maybe ask somebody for advice. Maybe a
Ask
founder's
for,
fund.
If
that
you
kind of
ask
thing?
for advice, you get money. If you ask for money, you get advice. Is a maxim.
Okay, so ask for advice because
Ask for
maybe
advice.
you'll get some money.
Exactly. So
All right,
start asking for. You're asking me for advice.
They wanted
You want
to
some
see
money?
me do this. Yeah, no, I don't need money or advice. I won't listen to your advice.
All right, let me show you.
take
Here's
your
some
money.
advice.
I'm syncing.
Syncing. You see that?
Yeah, it's syncing.
It's syncing.
Well, I've been doing that the whole time.
And
That
then
hasn't done anything.
go to your plus sign,
Okay, I'm done syncing. Go to my plus sign.
and then go to set an alarm, and it should be on the. It should be.
No, set smart alarm for 7 a.m. But what time is it? It thinks I'm in California.
It shouldn't.
Yeah, I understand that.
Mine has been waking me up at 7 a.m.
And so yours did sense the time change.
Yes.
Because I would figure it would look at the
There's
phone.
so-
See, it's broken.
Mine is broken.
It might be broken.
I want my $150 back.
It's half broken.
They're so persnickety, these apps. Mine just randomly pings me every once in a while. And it's
No,
not.
that's because you turned on the activity
I know
reminder.
I have not. I have not turned on the activity monitor. It just buzzes. I'm like, oh, hey.
This is talking about a first
Hey
world
there.
problem.
My up is buzzing way too much.
Our up is buzzing so much.
Wait, with the world's biggest first world problem, my up cap fell off.
Mine too. Okay.
I have an extra one if you
I
want.
ordered, do you? Because I ordered 3 and they still haven't delivered them. I
I'll
guess
give you one of
when they
mine.
closed the factory, they closed the cap factory.
Are you serious?
Too.
That
I don't
would
know.
suck.
Anyway, they're getting way too much
This
attention.
interview has gone so far off the rails. I don't even really know
Could
where
you
I am.
please take over?
So develop an up competitor. That's your best bet. Something that works. That's what
Now,
I'm.
an
Make
interesting thing
software
from
that uses Bluetooth.
Daniel Ek of Spotify was on stage. He said the idea is 5%. Execution, perseverance, 95%. And I think people think that, I get emails from, and I'm sure you do too, from people all the time saying, I have a brilliant idea, it's going to change the world. Everybody does. Ideas are easy. It's execution that's hard.
Sure. Or we'd all have
We all have
the
ideas.
greatest businesses ever changing the world.
I mean, Sean Parker said on stage that people learn through failures.
Yes, I believe that too.
So you get that the reason execution, I think, is such a big deal is because you try, you fail, you get a sense of the environment, you get back up, better equipped, try again, fail, get back up, get better again, and eventually develop something that solves the unique set of problems that are actually out there in the real world.
You know, it's interesting when you see the entrepreneurs on stage, the guys and gals who run big companies, billion-dollar companies, not very few of them are on their first startup. Almost always it's their second or third startup. It's rare that the first startup is the big one. You know, Facebook notwithstanding. Although even Facebook, he had that farm animals thing.
He also had a Napster clone almost.
Actually, I take it back because when he was in high school, that's right.
He had the Napster
He had a
clone.
Napster clone that was, and
Wirehog.
Microsoft offered him $1 million, which he turned down. So in fact, that wasn't his first startup.
And you know
was
what's interesting? Spotify has a lot of the same principles as Wirehog.
it? So Mark Zuckerberg is there. I didn't know this, but apparently Eck and Zuck are partners, or friends,
They're
not
friends.
partners.
Oh, I didn't know that either. Shocking. Shocker.
Table
They're
for
going to
two,
be at
Eck
the
and
top
Zuck.
of tech meme. Daniel Eck and Zuck are dating.
Okay, I'm getting punchy.
It's been a long
it
day,
has
huh?
been a long day. Did we explain?
All right, wrap it up. They're
Did
saying
we
wrap it up.
explain?
We've taken it there.
No, I'm really trying to get this information. Okay, so what is an angel? What is a venture capitalist? What do they call them? Super angels and micro venture capitalists? What are all these things?
An angel is an independent individual.
Somebody like Kevin Rose,
who's
who takes his
investing with their
money,
own money.
takes out
And
his
then
wallet.
institutions-
Usually a small amount, right?
You know, Kevin, though, when he was putting together Dig, he took what would be considered a very small amount of money, several $1,000s, from someone that he knew who had more money than Kevin did, to hire a coder who lived up in Nova Scotia just to get started. That person ended up having what is now a ridiculously large chunk of Dig stock.
Isn't that great?
Because that's the
a
kind
nice
of
story.
relationship you make when you just need a little bit
Peter
of money.
Thiel put only $500,000 into Facebook and is worth billions because of it. So it's absolutely possible. Those are the scores that everybody talks about. So you can get an individual investor, an angel, but a venture fund usually is a number of investors who pool together enough money, 20 million to hundreds of millions of dollars, to make a fund. And then you get partners, people like MG, for instance, or Mike Arrington, who are smart, may have some of their own money in it, may not, and they go look for investments. They're trying to take that $30 million and leverage it into billions. Am I right? Is that
You're absolutely.
Is that
this
how
is
it works?
Very
Okay. And then typically a new startup would go to an angel first.
Yeah, yes, it
Yeah,
depends.
yeah.
I mean, there's some.
I guess it does depend
yeah.
how much you need for one thing. How much do you give up if you're going to go to these people?
Again, it depends. I mean, you make each deal is kind of unique, right?
It could be well, Zuckerberg's famous for not giving up too much, right?
It's the one thing that he's done correctly.
Yeah, he's kept a big
across,
chunk.
across all aspects of his
The
career.
only thing he's done is not give up
Not
too
give up
much.
control.
Yeah,
He's,
other than that, he's really a failure.
he's good at hiring.
Yeah, Facebook's never going anywhere. All right. Cool. Anything else you see here that you found interesting? I mean, you must be looking for stories the whole time you're here.
I've got like 4 I want to write, and I
Yeah.
just haven't had the time to.
Well, tell us. This is
you'll
what
read about it on TechCrunch
this is what I love
I'm not
about the
gonna scoop
medium,
myself.
the broadcast medium, is you can talk about it. You don't have to write a story. Just say, hey, I saw something good. I saw something good. You can give us 4 things like that. You're done.
But they're kind of scoopy things.
Oh, they're scoopy
They're
things.
scoopy things.
Well, give us one.
Come on, Leo.
One little scoop. Just say you can read more in TechCrunch tomorrow. That'll push people
If
there.
Business Insider is watching.
When are you leaving TechCrunch? Seriously, I mean, everybody's gone. Aren't you the last
This is a
person that
great
works
question.
They just hired 2 people.
They just
Oh,
hired
okay.
2 people.
Yeah,
Come
to
on.
replace the people that left.
I mean,
Sarah left. Mike left. MG kind of left.
There's still, I mean,
He's still in
He
Scott.
still
Well,
comes to the office.
Yeah. In fact, that's where Crunch Fund has all their meetings.
It's
TechCrunch.
amazing.
I was like, why are they letting you do that? He doesn't know either.
But for us, it's good because we get, who's MG meeting with? Okay, cool. Let's look into
So,
this.
so you're still happy there, and yeah, things are going well, and you're enjoying.
There's no place where you can have a unique voice right now as a tech. I mean, there's no place like TechCrunch.
I agree. It's
Still.
wonderful.
Like if I went to the New York Times or something, I'd have to
Right.
go through the bureaucracy of getting fact checks or getting.
Who would want that?
Who would want that?
Fact
Spell
checkers.
check, maybe that would be awesome. But you'd have to go through a bureaucracy of editors. I've written for print, I've written for Wired, and it's a whole process. It's kind of sluggish. You can't really do tech reporting.
Don't you
in
feel
that way.
pressure, though, to come up with scoops? I mean, that must be hard. Where you
If you know a lot of people, it's not that hard because you just ask.
ask,
know?
what's the next big thing?
What's next? Yeah, and then conferences are always happening. So
what is the next big thing?
I think Spotify. I think music is going to get.
I think this is very interesting.
Yeah.
You know, you were
Health
on
also.
Twit a few weeks ago with Kevin, I think, right? No, maybe that was another one.
No, it was.
In any event, I was saying, "Oh, this is exciting. Google Music, it's going to change," and everybody said, "No, it's over. Spotify.
Spotify wins.
Spotify wins."
Well,
Is that the consensus? Do you agree?
Oh wow! Sarah Lacey and Mike Arrington are starting TechCrunch 2.0. Good work. So
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
When are you leaving TechCrunch, Alexis?
I don't know. So ridiculous.
All right, we are getting punchy. It is the end of the day. It's a long day. Do we? Is there any chance Loic Le Meur will show up in the next few minutes? Okay.
So no.
Because we are over time now. We've been waiting, kind of stalling a little bit, waiting in case Loic wanted to stop by. But he stopped by yesterday. We talked to him briefly. You know, he's the guy who put this together. It really is. And I'll ask you this, Alexia. How many LeWebs have you been to? Is this
This is my second one.
just your second? Pretty impressive, don't you think? I mean, you go to a lot of conferences.
Yeah, it's one of the best. It has some of the best production value.
That's for sure.
Like when you're on stage, you feel like Beyonce.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just
They have
wanted to work
I just wanna feel
Beyonce
like
into
Beyonce.
this interview somehow.
You know what's funny?
And I did.
You know what's funny? They've got a fog machine running.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
you're
I
about
can't think
to-
of any tech event where there's a fog machine running.
And lasers.
And lasers.
Yeah.
Music.
The video stream looks amazing.
But he also has an amazing group of people who come by. Not merely the guests, but also the interviewers. People like MG and Alexia. And I think that makes it very interesting. Of course, Loic does a lot of it too, and I'm sure he's exhausted. We will be back next year and give you more coverage from Le Web. So look for us in 2012 to be in Paris for Christmas. I hope you don't mind. Pre-Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
why
do
not?
it.
What the hell?
Come on.
What the heck?
Let's come back to Paris.
Alexia Tsotsis, look for her on TechCrunch.com. She's got four,
For
not
now.
one, not two, not three, but 4 scoops coming over the next couple of days.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. And we will see you again back in Petaluma at the Brick House.
You'll be back on Tuesday.
I will. You're going to be going to Barcelona.
I'm going to Barcelona tomorrow night. I will take lots
fun.
of Instagrams and path pictures, and I will send many tweets from
That'll be
my
great.
long train ride.
So I'll be doing iPad today. I'll find a guest host. There's a lot of people who use iPads.
You're going to have some fun.
I'll call Steve. see if he
Leo's
wants to
going
do it.
rogue. I can't wait to see the end result.
She thinks I can't produce a TV show.
I know you can. I just want to see what it looks like.
I can produce a TV show.
We'll see.
I can't.
Okay.
But I'll be back for Mac Break Weekly, 11 o'clock Tuesday
Same
morning.
time, same place.
Yep. I might be a little tired, but I will be here. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed our coverage of Le Web. All of our interviews, and there were maybe 20 of them, will be available. Will we put them on the specials feed? There are already 2 specials up.
So
Wednesday and
they're
Thursday.
being encoded as we speak. That's
great.
And uploaded as they are finished.
Also on our YouTube channel, twit.tv/YouTube. And we had some great conversations. If you missed earlier today, Jean-Marie Hulot, that was fascinating.
That was really a treat.
Yeah. He is a CEO of Photopedia, but also a longtime Apple and Next fellow, and had some interesting stories to tell. So that's worth watching. Thank you to our chat room. They all got up very early to watch and participate, except those of you who are in Europe. We thank you for being here, and we will be back next year. Thanks to Eileen Rivera, who produced this, and it's been a lot of work. Sarah Lane for being here, and thank you for watching. I'm Leo Laporte. We'll see you next year. Go ahead. I'm Leo Laporte.
I'm Sarah Lane.
Bye-bye.
Bye.